Chapter 56-55. Facing such a situation, Lin Yi could only smile and nod his head. He then changed the topic. All right, now that we're done here, everyone please eat your fill and enjoy the delicacies that we, the Green Cloud sect, have prepared for you. Please don't stand on ceremony and enjoy to your heart's content. The crowd roared in response, and they exchanged toasts with the people they were familiar with, starting to discuss the three things Lin Yi had mentioned. After raising his cup to everyone, Lin Yi excused himself from the banquet hall and called Shangguan Feixing and his son, as well as Primordial Invincible and Ling Tianyu to come out. Among the four great sects, Five Elements sect was the first to know that Lin Yi was going to leave. He had said all that he needed to, so now Lin Yi wanted to communicate with these two sects alone. After all, they were one of the most powerful forces that Lin Yi had left in the immemorial underworld. In the quiet room that had been prepared in advance, Lin Yi gestured for the four of them to sit down and said, "It's true that I'm leaving the immemorial underworld this time, but it's not for the reason that I said just now. Of course, I'll investigate the matter at the center, but the real reason is that I'm going back." "Going back? Boss Lin Yi, where are you going? To the secular world?" Ling Tianyu was the first to ask. Among the four of them, his relationship with Lin Yi was indeed the best. Lin Yi looked at Ling Tianyu in surprise. All along, Ling Tianyu had been calling him Brother Lin or Big Brother Lin. He didn't expect that he would suddenly call him Boss Lin Yi. Was he influenced by Bing Wuqing? However, Lin Yi didn't intend to correct Ling Tianyu. With his current status in the immemorial underworld, if Ling Tianyu continued to call Lin Yi brother, Primordial Invincible would probably not agree. Therefore, letting Ling Tianyu interact with him as Lin Yi's little brother was the best protection for Ling Tianyu. Primordial Invincible had no objections to Ling Tianyu's title. Being able to become Lin Yi's little brother was already a great honor for Ling Tianyu. In fact, it was Primordial Invincible's advice. It's not the secular world, but another space plane. It's a place very similar to the small Jianghu in ancient times. However, the mysterious ascending stage cultivators, they're only ordinary cultivators, and the mountain opening stage is only the starting point of the giant realm. There are even more powerful existences there, but unfortunately, you can't go there for the time being. If there's a chance in the future, I'll look for a way to connect the two spaces and bring you guys along. Lin Yi didn't reveal too much about the Heaven Step Island. In any case, they wouldn't know about it even if he told them now, so a simple introduction was enough. "No wonder you are so powerful. It turns out that you came from the upper space," Shangguan Feixing said with emotion. He wasn't too surprised about Lin Yi's origin, and even mentioned the upper space. However, Lin Yi himself didn't know whether the Heaven Step Island could be considered as the upper space of the small Jianghu in ancient times. If his speculation was correct, the Heaven Step Island should have been built by those legendary figures who disappeared in the small Jianghu in ancient times. Perhaps the Heaven Step Island was originally one with the small Jianghu in ancient times, but after the catastrophe 10,000 years ago, it was divided into two worlds. If this was the case, then there was no such thing as the upper space. Lin even thought that if the two worlds were one in the past, then it was very likely that there was a hidden space channel. Even if there wasn't, as long as one had enough strength, it wasn't impossible to open a space channel or build a transmission array between the two worlds. In short, they would definitely merge together in the end. Ling Tianyu revealed a trace of reluctance and said, "So, Boss Lin Yi, you can't bring people over? It would be great if I could follow you. My life, Ling Tianyu, was saved by Boss Lin Yi. I don't know when we can meet again after you go back." Lin Yi smiled and patted Ling Tianyu's shoulder, saying, "Don't show such an indecisive expression. Don't you want to revitalize the Thousand Blade sect? Then do it well. I might come back soon. When I come back, don't you still have no progress?" Ling Tianyu roused himself and nodded, saying, "Boss, don't worry. I definitely won't embarrass you. When you come back, the Thousand Blade sect will definitely become one of the 4 great sects. Lin Yi patted Ling Tianyou's shoulder again and nodded without saying anything. Everything was understood without words. Turning his head, Lin Yi said to Shangguan Feixing and Primordial Invincible, "The 2 of you are currently the strongest cultivators in the small Jianghu. From now on, the matters of the small Jianghu will need the 2 of you to take care of it. The Blue Cloud sect will also need the 2 of you to take care of it." Shangguan Feixing and Primordial Invincible hurriedly cupped their fists and bowed, saying, "You are too polite. This is what we should do. Actually, I'm not particularly worried. After all, there won't be anyone more powerful than you in the small Jianghu for the time being. However, it's easy to dodge a spear in the open, but hard to guard against a stab in the dark. No one can say for sure whether Qiankuan sect and Awakening Heavens sect will use tricks to deal with us. You have to be careful. Also, Yui, I'll leave him to guard the Blue Cloud sect. But if I'm not around, this guy might occasionally go crazy. At that time, I'll need the 2 of you to keep him in check." Lin Yi told them about his worries and concerns, especially about Yui. Without Shangguan Feixing and Primordial Invincible, the Blue Cloud sect wouldn't be enough for him to deal with. "Yes, Granduncle, please rest assured. We will be careful." The 2 of them promised, respectfully. With this double insurance, Lin Yi could really rest assured. "All right, you all go out and have a good meal. When I'm about to leave, I'll say goodbye to you." Lin Yi said with a smile and waved them out to eat. Then Lin Yi sent people to find the people of Qiankuan sect and Awakening Heavens sect, respectively. He said a few words to them, and seeing that their attitudes were very good, he didn't say anything more. During this period, Duan Yu quietly came to find Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't hide it from her and told her his real whereabouts. Although Duan Yu was reluctant, she didn't feel too conflicted. She only asked Lin Yi to come back as soon as possible and find a way to bring her to Heavenly Island to have a look. Duan Yu and Lin Yi chatted for a while before getting up to leave. She also knew that Lin Yi was very busy now, and it wasn't convenient to disturb him for too long. Although she didn't want to leave, she also didn't want to put Lin Yi in a difficult position. She could only leave by herself. Chapter 56:56. When Zhao Xiaodan came in, Lin Yi remembered the previous cave house, so he asked directly, "Zhao Xiaodan, do you remember the cave house you mentioned the first time I saw you?" "It's the cave house where you got the god-controlling bracelet and the inner core of the sea beast." Zhao Xiaodan looked embarrassed and said, "I remember, Senior Lin. Why do you want to ask about this again?" "Oh, I don't need to say anything about the first time I saw you. I was afraid that you would miss something in that situation, so now I want to ask you again to see if you have anything to add." Lin Yi thought that at that time I used force to oppress you, you probably won't tell me the truth, so it's better to ask again. If I can find some clues in that cave house, maybe I can find a way to connect the Heavenly Stage Island and the ancient small Jianghu. Zhao Xiaodan became more and more embarrassed. He said that, "Actually, Junior didn't lie. There's really nothing there. Senior Lin, you don't have to go." "What's wrong with this Zhao Xiaodan? Does he not want to tell me?" Lin Yi looked at Zhao Xiaodan with some confusion. It shouldn't be. Zhao Xiaodan has completely surrendered to him. There's no reason for him to hide it. "I didn't say I want to go, just tell me the details of this cave house, such as where it is, what the layout is inside, how big it is, and so on." Zhao Xiaodan stole a glance at Lin Yi. His face was a little red and said, "Senior Lin, it's best if you don't go. In fact, the first time, although I didn't lie, I did hide something. At that time, I deliberately kept you in suspense, just to arouse Senior Lin's interest, so that you would take the initiative to ask me about the cave house. Then I would take the opportunity to get rid of you." Lin erased his eyebrows and said, "Oh, so that cave house is an extremely dangerous place. Do you think that if I go there, it's basically equivalent to suicide?" "Yes, that place is very dangerous, Senior Lin. If you go there, it's basically suicide." Zhao Xiaodan felt more at ease after saying it out loud. He simply continued, "In fact, there's really nothing left in that cave abode. I acted like that just to lure Senior Lin to his death. Anyway, you went there yourself. Even if you don't die, you can't blame me, right? Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, That's not important. What you did at that time wasn't wrong. I won't haggle over it. Now tell me, how dangerous is that place? Zhao Dan let out a sigh of relief. It was fine as long as Lin Yi didn't care about it. After thinking for a while, he continued, It's like this. The space inside the cave was very big, but inexplicably, there would always be some thunder and lightning appearing out of nowhere. It was obviously in the cave, and I didn't know where the thunder and lightning came from, but the power was extremely strong. Lin Yi frowned. Lightning appeared out of nowhere. This is a little strange. In fact, when we first went there was also a great perfection nascent soul grand elder from the Heaven Awakening sect with us. However, such a peak expert was killed by a bolt of lightning. That was the great perfection nascent soul grand elder. He was the top existence in the small immemorial underworld. He couldn't even resist it for a while. If it wasn't so, Cheetah and I might not have gone to the center for help this time, right? Zhao Dan said as he went astray. Lin Yi didn't care about Cheetah Nei or the great elder of the Heaven Awakening sect. He was now concerned about the lightning that appeared out of nowhere. Wait a minute. Did you just say thunder and lightning? The thunder and lightning that appeared out of nowhere in the cave instantly killed a great perfection nascent soul grand elder? Lin Yi's heart surged with a feeling of absurdity. Did the people of the small immemorial underworld never know that they could actually advance to the profound ascension stage? In this kind of scene, Lin Yi's first reaction was the Thunder Plain Island on the Heavenly Stage Island. That was where the Thunder Tribulation was located to advance to the profound ascension stage. The cave that Zhao Dan spoke of, why did it feel like the Thunder Tribulation used to advance to the profound ascension stage? That's right, this junior said so. Zhao Dan didn't know what happened to Lin Yi, so he could only nod and reply with a dumbfounded face. Lin Yi pondered for a moment, then said to Zhao Dan, You have aroused my interest. Now take me to the cave to have a look. Ah, Zhao Dan was dumbfounded. I said so much just to tell you not to go. How did it become arousing your interest? Can your interest not be so strange? Lin Yi didn't care what Zhao Xiaodan was thinking. He didn't plan on going at all, but after hearing Zhao Xiaodan's description, it was impossible not to go. Only by seeing it with his own eyes could he be sure that the place was as he imagined it to be. When Zhao Dan heard that Lin Yi wanted him to take him to the cave to have a look, he was dumbfounded on the spot. He clearly saw how the great elder of the Heaven Awakening sect died. That kind of terrifying feeling, Zhao Dan really didn't want to experience it a second time. Lin Yi glanced at Zhao Dan faintly and said, What? You don't want to take me there? Zhao Dan said with a sad face, Senior Lin, Didn't I say that that place is too dangerous? Why do you have to go there? That's thunder and lightning. For the primordial spirit, the same thunder and lightning will be more terrifying than hitting the body. You don't need to worry about this. You just need to take me there, Lin Yi said in an unquestionable tone. Zhao Dan knew that he couldn't change Lin Yi's mind, so he could only nod and agree with a bitter smile. Wait a moment, I'll settle things here, then go to the cave with you to have a look. Lin Yi planned to leave the primitive small Jianghu directly after seeing the cave and not return to the Green Cloud sect in the North Island. So before leaving, he still had to say goodbye to everyone. Zhao Dan, of course, didn't have any objections. He thought to himself, Take your time to settle down, I don't mind waiting. I don't mind waiting until the end of time, as long as you don't ask me to bring you there. Lin Yi had basically met with the representatives of the 4 big and 10 small schools, and everything he needed to do was done, so now he only needed to inform X and Ijia and the others. Lin Yi didn't say that he was going to look for the cave. He said goodbye to Xi and Ijia, Hong Zijuan, Jin Weifeng, and the others, and went to find Ling Shan and the others. Duan Muyu and Cold were also with them. Chapter 56-57. Lin Yi smiled. Then I'll see how you perform. If you guys still don't improve, I'll fire you. No way. That cruel? Boss, we're wrong, all right? Wu Qintian's wackiness immediately washed away the faint sorrow of parting, and everyone burst into laughter. Ling Shan came up and gave Lin Yi a big hug. Lin Yi's wives weren't here, so she was the one with the most power here. It wasn't easy to get a chance like this. Of course, she wouldn't let it go. You have to come back soon. The dummy girl's waiting for you. Ling Shan's face was red as she whispered into Lin Yi's ear. Lin Yi hugged Ling Shan back, smiling. I will. Ziyu's eyes flickered a couple of times, waiting for Ling Shan to leave Lin Yi's embrace. She rushed up and jumped into Lin Yi's embrace. Lin Yi bro, you promised my brother you'd take care of me, but you've been throwing me aside this whole time. If you don't come back soon, my brother's going to tell on you when he wakes up. Ziyu hugged Lin Yi tighter, trying to come up with some random excuse, just so she could stay in this warm embrace a little longer. Lin Yi patted her head, smiling. All right, since when did you learn to act cute? This isn't like you at all. Ziyu humphed, too embarrassed to stay in Lin Yi's embrace any longer. She got up and stomped her feet. I'm not joking with you. If you don't come back soon, I'll tell my brother. Got it, I'll come back soon. Lin Yi smiled lovingly, patting her head. Thinking of her brother, Armadillo, he couldn't help but feel sad. Also, Lin Yi bro, you have to find Qin Shi soon. I miss Qin Shi. Ziyu suddenly said, a little sad. She still hadn't heard from Qin Shi yet. Lin Yi put away his smile and nodded solemnly. I'll find Qin Shi for sure. Don't worry, I won't let her get hurt. Although he said that, Lin Yi didn't have much confidence. On Sky Class Island, Lin Yi's name wasn't at the top yet, but he was definitely famous. There was practically no one in the younger generation who could compare to him. Qin, she should have been able to find out about Lin Yi by now, but she hadn't been able to contact him. If it wasn't an accident, then he must have been teleported to an isolated place. No matter what, Lin Yi had to do everything he could to find Qin Shi and the others. The more time passed, the higher the chance of accidents happening. Duanmu Yu waited for Ziyu to finish before walking up and giving Lin Yi a big hug. She smiled. Take care. I'll wait for you with Ling Shan, Ziyu, and Lung Lung. Lin Yi nodded and patted Duanmu Yu's back. You take care too. We'll see each other soon. After letting go of Duanmu Yu, Lin Yi raised his head and looked at Lung Lung. Lung Lung turned her head away, but she was secretly observing Lin Yi's movements from the corner of her eyes. It was obvious that she wanted to bid farewell to Lin Yi, but her cold personality made it difficult for her to do so, and she didn't know what to do. Lin Yi smiled and pulled Lung Lung into a hug. He whispered in her ear, Wait for me, it won't be long. When she was first pulled over, Lung Lung's body was still a little stiff. However, after coming into contact with Lin Yi's embrace, she quickly relaxed. After hearing Lin Yi's words, Lung Lung didn't know what to say. It seemed that all she could say had been said by the three people in front of her. Hence, she only let out a soft hum and quietly enjoyed the warmth before parting. Bing Wuqing, who was beside Lung Lung, had a cold expression on her face. She almost had the words, I don't need your hug, written on her face. When she saw Lin Yi's eyes turn to her, she immediately said expressionlessly, Boss, I'll take care of Lung Lung. Don't worry and go. The corner of Lin Yi's mouth twitched. If he didn't know Bing Wuqing's character very well, he would really think that she had been possessed by Yui. How could she say such vicious words so naturally? But obviously, Bing Wuqing herself didn't understand what she said. In her opinion, she just said a very ordinary sentence, and it was all the truth. What was the problem? Yui held back his laughter. He thought to himself, Little bastard Lin Yi, even your little brother hopes that you can go in peace. Then you can go in peace. Just leave everything in the immemorial underworld to master you. Of course, he could only think this in his heart. Yui didn't dare to say it out loud. Lin Yi could tolerate Bang Wuqing's unintentional slip of the tongue, but he would never let Yu Yi go. Was this the difference between a little brother and a slave? Yu Yi was almost angered by his own thoughts. Even if Lin Yi was beaten to death, there was no way that Lin Yi could understand this train of thought. Yu Yi squeezed out a fake expression of reluctance and opened his arms to give Lin Yi a big hug. Lin Yi turned his head away and pushed his face aside with his palm. What a good feeling of parting and a faint sadness. Why did he suddenly find Yu Yi's expression so funny? He didn't realize that Yu Yi looked so funny, no matter what. Lin Yi had bid farewell to everyone. Then he brought Languza with him and went to the cave under Zhao Dan's lead. The location of the cave was an uninhabited island in the boundless sea. From the environment, it was somewhat similar to the Taishi Island. This also reminded Lin Yi that he still had a little brother of the Taishi spirit there. He didn't have time this time, but he would still go and have a look when he had the chance next time. During this period of time, Lin Yi had already refined 5 of the malignant tumors in his consciousness and was refining the 6th one. He had also eaten 6 consciousness fruits. This was also thanks to the Taishi spirit. Otherwise, these malignant tumors would definitely be a huge hidden danger for Lin Yi, and he didn't know when they would erupt. Senior Lin, this is the location of the cave. At the center of the island is the crater of a dormant volcano. There's a concealment spell there. Most people wouldn't be able to find any traces of the cave even if they walked over there. Zhao Dan came here and felt a little guilty, but he still tried his best to introduce the place to Lin Yi. Chapter 56-58. Zhao Xiantian smiled bitterly and said, "Of course not, we just happened to come here by chance. We came here because the 3 of us formed a team to kill a nascent soul stage sea beast and wanted to find the 5 Elements sect to refine a nascent soul golden pill. Although the Supreme Elder of the Heaven Awakening sect doesn't need the nascent soul golden pill, he owed Yin Chinching a favor, and Yin Chinching gave him a generous reward. So he came together. In the endless sea, there are countless islands like this. You guys are really lucky to be able to find this place." Languza chuckled as he spoke. For a member of the royal family of sea beasts like him, the number of islands he had seen could be counted in the tens of thousands. However, he had never heard of any abodes being discovered. Zhao Xiantian smiled apologetically and said, "We were really lucky. Because we were chasing a nascent soul stage sea beast, the 3 of us came to this island and followed the sea beast into the crater of the volcano. After triggering the restrictions, we accidentally entered the cave dwelling." He suddenly remembered that the blue flood dragon in front of him was a royal family of sea beasts. It didn't seem very good to say that they were chasing a sea beast, so Zhao Xiantian secretly looked at Languza. When he didn't see any strange expression on Languza's face, he let out a sigh of relief. As the 2 people and the flood dragon spoke, they arrived at the crater of the extinct volcano at the center of the island. Lin Yi stood at the edge. Whether it was with his divine sense or his eyes, he didn't find anything strange. It was just an ordinary crater. Because there hadn't been an eruption for a long time, there was a thick pile of volcanic rocks inside, almost blocking the crater. Zhao Xiaotian pointed to a hidden spot at the mouth of the volcano and said, "Senior Lin, that place is the place that, when we were careless and touched it, the restrictions at the mouth of the volcano fluctuated slightly, allowing us to see the entrance of the cave inside. What's amazing is that before we triggered the restrictions, we couldn't find the entrance no matter how we looked. But once we saw it, we could easily enter." Lin Yi looked at where Zhao Xiantian was pointing. That location was blocked by a protruding volcanic rock. It was impossible to see it clearly from the crater. When Zhao Xiantian said that, he was obviously talking about hunting sea beasts. Because he was worried about Languza, he didn't say it in detail. Those who did know better would think that he was talking about when he peed, according to Zhao Dan's explanation. The sea beast that was being chased by the 3 of them should have escaped here and entered the crater to hide. Then it accidentally touched the restriction, allowing them to discover the cave inside. Because of this, the supreme elder of the enlightening heavens faction directly fell inside. Indeed, fortune and misfortune came hand in hand. No one could say for sure whether they had encountered a fortuitous encounter or a crisis. Thank you for leading the way. Now, the two of us will explore it ourselves. You can go back now, Lin Yi said to Zhao Xiaodan with a faint smile. He could also see that Zhao Xiaodan did not want to enter this dangerous cave again, so he did not force Zhao Xiaodan. Anyway, there was no problem as long as he could enter. Zhao Xiao felt relieved. If Lin Yi wanted him to go in, he would risk his life to follow. However, since Lin Yi was so considerate of his feelings, he would not force himself to go in. Senior Lin, you are too polite. This is what I should do, Zhao Xiaodan said gratefully. Then, as if he thought of something, he said, Oh yes, there is something I forgot to tell Senior Lin. Our evil warding sect has a vice sect master. Senior Lin should know him. His name is Fei Yangsheng. If Senior Lin needs our help in the future, and I am not in the sect, you can directly look for Vice Sect Master Fei Yangsheng. Fei Yangsheng? He is already a Vice Sect Master? Lin Yi nodded. He knew that Zhao Xiaodan was trying to curry favor with him. He didn't know where Zhao Xiaodan heard that Fei Yangsheng was also a follower of Lin Yi, so he directly promoted Fei Yangsheng to Vice Sect Master. Regarding this, Lin Yi didn't have any special thoughts. He smiled and asked about Fei Yangsheng's recent situation. Then he sent Zhao Xiaodan away. Lin Yi casually sent out a stream of pure energy, lightly hitting the position of the mechanism. As expected, the volcanic rocks in the crater started to ripple like water, forming circles of transparent ripples. As the ripples spread out in between each circle, the volcanic rocks and the image of a dark hole appeared. That should be the entrance to the cave abode. Let's go in. Lin Yi turned and called out to Lenguza. Then, they directly rushed towards the entrance of the cave abode. Zhao Xiaodan was right. Lin Yi and Lenguza successfully rushed into the cave abode. In front of them were two tightly shut bronze doors. These two doors were already covered with greenish-black copper rust. However, it did not affect the ancient and desolate aura it contained. It really is an antique. What's the use of these two doors? Lenguza mumbled to himself. Then he went forward and pushed with his two claws. He easily pushed open the two bronze doors. Because Zhao Xiaodan and the other two had been here before, there was no problem for the bronze doors to open easily. This was the reason why Lin Yi felt at ease and let Lenguza open the doors. Boss, it's so dark inside. I can't see anything. If I had known this earlier, I would have brought a few night-luminescent pearls from Flood Dragon Island. After the bronze doors opened, Lenguza went straight in. He didn't care about the dangers inside. Given his strength and the strength of his body, few people in the primordial underworld could hurt him. Lin Yi followed him in unhurriedly, reminding him along the way, Lenguza, don't go in too deep. We don't know what dangers lie in there. You should come back and check out the situation first. Boss, don't worry. I know what I'm doing, Lenguza replied. However, he still didn't have any intention of coming back. He just slowed down his pace a lot. It seemed like he wanted to wait for Lin Yi to come back. Lin Yi released his divine sense. Although he was in the darkness, his divine sense wasn't blocked. Therefore, it didn't affect Lin Yi too much. It's so empty inside. It seems like there's really nothing left. Lin Yi came to Lenguza's side and said as they continued to walk forward slowly. Lenguza laughed and said, Boss, even if there was something here, it must have been taken away by Zhao Xiaodan. That's why it looks so empty. Chapter 56-59. Hey, boss, do you smell anything? Lenguza suddenly stopped, turned his head, and sniffed around. Lin Yi was speechless. You are a sea serpent, not General Weiwu. Why are you acting like a big dog? However, looking at Lenguza's solemn look, Lin Yi also sniffed subconsciously, but he did not find any special smell. Even if there was, it was the smell of seawater on Linguza's body. What do you smell? Lin Yi also stopped, and his divine sense searched more carefully, but he still found nothing. I can't tell what this smell is. It's faint, but somewhat familiar. Is it the nidin of a sea beast? Linguza stretched out his claws and scratched his head, saying with some uncertainty. He heard Lin Yi mention before that Zhao Dan and the others had obtained a sea beast nidin of the mystical ascending stage here. Maybe what he smelled was the smell of another sea beast nidin. After all, Linguza was the royal family of sea beasts, so he must be very familiar with the smell of sea beast nidin. Linguza, can you determine where the smell is coming from? Although Lin Yi did not find anything, he would not easily doubt Linguza's words. So he patted Linguza's body and asked him to try to find the source of the smell. Linguza nodded and said, "Boss, let me try. This smell is a bit scattered. I may not be able to find it." After speaking, Linguza sniffed hard and swayed around. After a while, he seemed to have found the right direction and began to move along a straight line. Lin Yi was secretly surprised. He had never heard of a sea serpent having a dog-like nose, but this was not important. What was important was what Linguza could find. Another mystical ascending stage, sea beast nidin. After a while, Linguza stopped in front of a huge rock, walked around the rock, and then said to Lin Yi with certainty, "Boss, it's inside this rock. The feeling is stronger now. It's definitely right." Lin Yi suspiciously scanned the huge rock in front of him with divine sense, but he did not find anything. The inside of this rock was extremely normal, and divine sense could completely penetrate it. "Boss, step aside, let me break this rock." Linguza's own divine sense couldn't find any traces of what might be inside the rock, but his strange sense of smell made him unwilling to give up. In fact, Linguza had never felt that his sense of smell was sensitive before, but today he didn't know what was going on. The faint smell lingered in his nose all the time, and he couldn't get rid of it at all. Lin Yi obviously didn't notice it at all. Only he could smell it. Lin Yi also felt that this matter was a bit strange, but the jade pendant didn't give any warning. There shouldn't be any danger, so he took 2 steps back and let Linguza deal with this huge rock. Linguza didn't use any complex and advanced martial arts. He directly used his tyrannical body to deal with the rock. With a swing of his thick tail, a large piece of rock was smashed. After a few consecutive lashes, this huge rock suddenly fell apart. Linguza used his divine sense as an eye and stretched out his 2 claws to dig a few times. He found a piece of gravel the size of a millstone. "Boss, it's here. The smell is getting stronger and stronger." Linguza turned his head and pointed to the stone and said to Lin Yi. Although it was dark, Lin Yi could still clearly see his every move. The problem was that Lin Yi still couldn't smell anything, and he couldn't tell what was different about the rock that Linguza was holding with his 2 claws. "Linguza, you open this stone carefully and see what is inside." Lin Yi stepped forward and touched the stone. Linguza agreed. He held the stone with 1 claw and slid his other claw on the stone. The sharp claws easily left a clear mark on the stone and then slowly fell off. As the small stones fell, a small black jade box slowly appeared. Lin Yi was also a little stunned. There was really something in this stone. If Linguza didn't follow him, Lin Yi would never notice the existence of this black jade box because he couldn't find it at all. Linguza held the black jade box and came to Lin Yi's side. He laughed and said, "Boss, look, I told you there was something in it. My nose is really too amazing." Lin Yi smiled slightly. He thought in his heart that you and General Weiwu would have a lot in common in the future. Linguza handed the black jade box to Lin Yi and then looked at it eagerly. He had tried to open this jade box just now, but he couldn't find the opening mechanism no matter how hard he tried. He wanted to use brute force to open it, but he was afraid of hurting the thing in the jade box. After all, he could smell it. Linguza didn't dare to simply touch it, so he could only pin his hope on Lin Yi. Lin Yi looked at the black jade box in his hand with a strange expression. When he scanned it with his divine sense, he could see the size and shape of the jade box clearly. However, when he wanted to go deeper into it, his divine sense passed through it directly as if he was holding a ball of air in his hand. This situation made Lin Yi very suspicious. Was everything he saw in this dark space real? Could it be that everything in the darkness in Lin Yi's consciousness was actually missing a large part of it? Thinking of this, Lin Yi simply lit up an alchemy fire to illuminate the surroundings. The surrounding environment was immediately reflected in his eyes and overlapped with what he saw with his divine sense. Originally, because it was the same with divine sense, Lin Yi was too lazy to think of a way to light up the place. Now, in this situation, he had to use his naked eyes to observe. Fortunately, after seeing it clearly, there didn't seem to be anything different, which made Lin Yi feel more at ease. Looking at the smooth body of the jade box, there was no lock or anything like that. He raised his hand and shook it a few times. There was a slight sound inside. Obviously, there was something inside the jade box. He touched it inch by inch with his hand, and there wasn't even a small crack. It was as if it was a piece of natural black jade. This jade box is really strange. I don't know what is inside. Just the jade box itself can be considered as a good treasure. Lin Yi tried to open it, but couldn't, so he could only pass it back to Lenguza. After all, this was something he found, so it wasn't good for Lin Yi to take it for himself. Chapter 5660. Lin Yi looked at Lenguza in astonishment. He just said that this jade box was a good treasure, and this guy immediately destroyed it? But Lin Yi was relieved in the blink of an eye. There was no point in holding on to this jade box anyway. He might as well just open it and see what was inside. Lenguza's decisiveness was really like a ruthless man, ruthless dragon. Ah, boss, I didn't mean it. I didn't expect this thing to be so hard to hold. Lenguza looked at Lin Yi awkwardly, with a look of bewilderment. Lin Yi was speechless. You didn't mean it? I was just about to praise you for being a decisive, ruthless dragon. Forget it. If it's broken, then it's broken. Lin Yi waved his hand carelessly and focused his attention on what Lenguza was holding in his claws. In addition to the fragments of the black jade box, there was a thin book in the middle of Lenguza's claws. The paper was made of an unknown material, but it was extraordinarily tough. Lenguza's claws did not cause any damage to it, and what emitted pure spiritual power was a fist-sized blue-gold sea beast's Niden. Judging from the strength of the spiritual power, Lin Yi speculated that it was at least at the peak of the mysterious ascension middle stage. However, Lin Yi was not too interested in this Niden. Although the Niden of the mysterious ascension middle stage was rare, Lin Yi did not need it at the moment. On the contrary, Lin Yi felt that the book would be a good gain. This is the Niden of our Sea Serpent clan. Lenguza suddenly showed a sad expression, looked at the blue-gold sea beast Niden, and murmured. Only then did Lin Yi understand. So it was the inner core of the Sea Serpent clan. No wonder Lenguza could sense it. He probably didn't smell anything. It was just that the inner core of the same clan had formed some sort of mysterious connection with him, causing him to feel that he smelled a faint scent. Lenguza, are you all right? It was also the first time that Lin Yi saw Lenguza with such an expression. He had always been carefree, so Lin Yi didn't know what to say for a while. Lenguza was stunned. I'm fine. Boss, what's wrong? Lin Yi almost suspected that he had seen wrongly just now. This guy didn't show any sadness at all, did he? Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to say anything more. He pointed at the book in Lenguza's hand and said, It's fine. Let me have a look at the book in your hand. You can deal with the inner core of your ancestors yourself. Lenguza replied with an O, using his other claw to pick up the book and pass it to Lin Yi. Then he slapped away the black jade shards at the side of the core, casually tossing the core of the middle stage mystic ascension dragon into his mouth and gulping it down. Lin Yi held the book and looked at Lenguza in a daze. What happened to the ancestor of the clan? He just swallowed it in one gulp? Lenguza grinned and said, Boss, what are you so surprised about? The Naiden of our sea serpent clan is a kind of inheritance. The ancestor left the Naiden to the younger generation, which is equivalent to his spirit not dying. So I swallowed this Naiden as the greatest respect to the ancestor. The first law of sea beasts was that the strong preyed on the weak. The reason why the sea serpent dragons were able to become the royalty of the sea beasts was not only because of their powerful innate talent, but also because of this method of inheritance. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, "So that's how it is. Then you can digest it yourself. I'll study this book." Languza sat up and began to refine the Naiden of the sea serpent clan. Originally, the sea beasts didn't like Naidens very much because the efficiency was too low. But the Naiden of the sea serpent clan was different. Although the spiritual power contained in it couldn't improve Languza's strength too much, he could obtain some memory inheritance from this Naiden. Maybe he could awaken some talent skills. Lin Yi didn't care about Languza and opened the cover of the book. There were 5 big words written on the cover. Essence of lightning gathering formation. Formation? Lin Yi didn't know whether he should be happy or sigh. He really didn't know much about formations. This essence of lightning gathering formation sounded very powerful, but it wasn't very useful to him because he couldn't understand it at all. Although that was the case, seeing that Languza was still digesting the Naiden, Lin Yi thought that since he had nothing to do, he might as well continue to read it. What he didn't expect was that the opening chapter of the essence of lightning gathering formation didn't directly talk about lightning gathering formation. Instead, it talked about the most basic formation summary and explained it clearly. Even a beginner formation like Lin Yi could easily understand it. Lin Yi's interest was immediately piqued. After all, formations were extremely rare on Sky Class Island, and almost no one knew about them. If it wasn't for the ghost's memory, Lin Yi wouldn't have been able to break through Tian's one-step sky ascension. So this made Lin Yi sink his whole mind into the essence of lightning gathering formation. After all, if he encountered a formation again in the future, he wouldn't panic. After a long time, Lin Yi finished reading this thin book and sighed. So, lightning gathering formation is an artificial thunder retribution point. Its power is not inferior to the natural thunder retribution point on the Thunderous Plain Island. If it's properly controlled, it can also be used as an offensive killing formation. It's really an eye-opener. At the end of the book, it was also mentioned that there was a lightning gathering formation here. The Supreme Elder of the Enlightenment faction probably entered the lightning gathering formation by mistake and was killed. If he had a Thunder Shankor, he might be able to directly advance to the profound ascension stage. Boss, what's the use of a lightning gathering formation thunder retribution point? Languza had already digested the Naiden. His aura was also a lot stronger. He had already entered the peak of the early profound ascension stage. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "That's what we humans use to advance to the profound ascension stage. You sea dragons have a chance to directly advance to the profound ascension stage after reaching adulthood. But we humans have to go through thunder retribution. So lightning gathering formation is indispensable." Speaking of which, the sea serpents were indeed blessed by the heavens. Evolving from a sea serpent to a sea serpent was a transformation, and evolving from a sea serpent to a sea dragon was another transformation. Each transformation allowed them to break through the limits of a big level. Lin Yi wondered if they'd become stronger after going through the lightning calamity. Chapter 56-61. As for the possible danger, Lin Yi didn't think that there would be any. First of all, Languza was already at the peak of the early stage of mysterious ascension realm. As a member of the Sea Serpent clan, his body was much stronger than a human's. Even if he could withstand a few lightning tribulations, Lin Yi didn't have much else, but he had enough medicinal pills. One Thunder Profound pill was enough to make Languza completely safe. Although Lin Yi had read the essence of the lightning gathering array, it was obviously impossible for him to set up a lightning gathering array himself. The materials were a problem, and so was Lin Yi's formation skills. Fortunately, the lightning gathering array here had already been set up. Even if it had been in disrepair for a long time, Lin Yi could still repair it. Lenguza, let's continue. There's a lightning gathering array here. When we find it, I'll let you try it. Lin Yi didn't intend to hide it and said directly to Lenguza. Lenguza asked doubtfully, Boss, how do I try it? See if I'll be struck by lightning? If you put it like that, there's no problem. Lin Yi looked at Lenguza and smiled lightly. Boss, can I choose not to try it? Lenguza's mind was filled with the image of himself being struck black, like charcoal with smoke coming out of his body. He immediately asked carefully with a bitter expression. Lin Yi nodded and said, Of course you can. This is your right. But if you don't want to try it, you can go back to Serpent Island now. Otherwise, you'll be struck by lightning. Boss, where is the lightning gathering array? My body is a little itchy. I want to go and see what it feels like to bathe in lightning. Lenguza had an expression of duty. He looked left and right for the damn lightning gathering array. Compared to returning to Serpent Island, being struck by lightning a few times was completely acceptable. Lin Yi laughed and shook his head. Would this fellow refuse to leave the thunder gathering array after learning about the benefits of the thunder tribulation? While speaking, Lin Yi brought Lenguza to the front of another rock wall. He stretched out his finger and used his true qi to touch the rock wall a few times. The rock wall rippled, revealing a passage. The essence of the lightning gathering array mentioned the way to enter the lightning gathering array. Lin Yi followed the instructions in the book and found the node of the array easily. However, what Lin Yi couldn't understand was how Zhao Quan and Yin Qinqing had managed to enter the lightning gathering array. If it was someone who didn't understand array formations, they wouldn't even be able to find the entrance to this passageway. Could it be that they had stumbled upon it by accident? However, it was also possible that the array had been in disrepair for a long time and had loosened a bit. Perhaps they didn't need to use any special methods to break in. Just as they entered the passageway, a lightning bolt suddenly descended, twisting and striking the top of Lin Yi's head. If it had struck, Lin Yi's primordial spirit would have suffered. It might even have directly collapsed. Fortunately, Lin Yi was already prepared. A similar lightning bolt appeared above his head, intercepting the previous lightning bolt. After a few crackling sounds, it dissipated. Lenguza shrunk his head. He could feel that this lightning bolt wasn't a fatal threat to him. But if it struck his body, it would definitely hurt. If Lin Yi hadn't insisted, then Lenguza definitely wouldn't have stepped into the lightning gathering array. It seems that the lightning gathering array has been damaged. The lightning has already escaped from the array. Lin Yi nodded, confirming his guess. He turned around and took out a Thunder Shen pill and handed it to Lenguza. Eat it. Lenguza didn't suspect anything and directly took it and threw it into his mouth. His trust in Lin Yi could be seen from this. Lin Yi nodded and continued to lead Lenguza forward. At the same time, he also increased his vigilance. This passageway wasn't long, only about 100 steps. However, lightning would appear at almost every step. It was simply an enhanced version of a frightening step. Even if Lin Yi was prepared, it was still a bit difficult to deal with. Under such circumstances, it was impossible to move quickly. If he couldn't accurately intercept the lightning, Lin Yi didn't know what would happen. If his body was here, of course, the lightning wouldn't be a threat. However, he didn't dare to take risks with his primordial spirit. After walking out of the passageway with great difficulty, Lin Yi's eyes suddenly opened up. When he looked up, he could see the cloudy sky. There were cliffs surrounding it, forming a valley that was neither too big nor too small. At the most central position, there was a clear array pattern emitting light, constantly circulating. Lightning gathering array. After so many years, it's still operating on its own. It's really amazing. Lin Yi exclaimed and began to observe the damaged areas of the lightning gathering array. Normally, a complete array wouldn't let people see the array pattern because it was easy to catch the nodes of the array and destroy it. Therefore, when he saw the array pattern, Lin Yi could confirm that the lightning gathering array was damaged. However, even a damaged lightning gathering array could attract quite a lot of lightning. With the lightning gathering array essence in hand, Lin Yi could easily observe the array. After all, finding the damaged areas was countless times easier than setting up a new one. Soon he found something. On one of the nodes of the lightning gathering array, the array pattern was broken. This caused the entire array to be unable to circulate at this point. It could only be diverted to another path. Because of this, the entire lightning gathering array was affected. Lin Yi focused on guarding against the lightning falling from the sky. At the edge of the array, the lightning was much denser than in the passageway. Only Lin Yi could use lightning to restrain it. If it was someone else, they might not be able to get close to this damaged node of the array. The foundation of the array uses spiritual jades as its power source. So that's how it is. The spiritual jades are only the initial power source. After the array is activated, the excess lightning energy will be channeled into the ground to replenish the spiritual jades. Therefore, the spiritual jades will never run out. It's almost a perpetual array. Lin Yi studied the damaged array foundation and suddenly let out a low sigh. In the lightning gathering array essence, only the arrangement of the array foundation wasn't mentioned in detail. Perhaps it was because the array foundation couldn't be set up artificially and had to be found in a naturally formed location? Or was the author of the array essence hiding something? However, it didn't matter much because the array foundation wasn't damaged. Lin Yi glanced at the broken array pattern. He didn't know if this node was damaged first, causing the array pattern to break, or if the array pattern broke first, causing the spiritual jades to be unable to replenish their energy. In any case, if he wanted to repair it, he had to first repair the array foundation. Chapter 56-62. The dark clouds in the sky churned, and the scattered thunder and lightning gathered again, concentrating in the transparent cover of the thunder gathering array. Lin Yi heaved a sigh of relief. The thunder gathering array was finally repaired. When the lines were completely hidden, the operation of the thunder gathering array was also on the right track. Lin Yi, who had retreated, turned to Lenguza and said, "You can go in now. Don't worry, nothing will happen." Lenguza looked at the thunder and lightning falling from the thunder gathering array. He did not believe that nothing would happen to him after going in, but since it was Lin Yi who said it, Lenguza did not continue to hesitate. He gritted his teeth and rushed into the thunder gathering array. The moment he entered the lightning gathering matrix, a bolt of lightning accurately struck Lenguza. His entire slender body was covered in tiny leaping lightning arcs. However, the destructive damage that he expected did not appear. On the contrary, Lenguza felt a numbing sensation all over his body. It was so comfortable that he could not describe it in words. "Ha ha ha, boss, did you see that? I'm really bathing in thunder and lightning. It's so comfortable." Lenguza burst into laughter as the continuous thunder and lightning fell. He even had the leisure to wave his hands and shout at Lin Yi outside the array. Lin Yi smiled faintly. This was all within his calculations. Lenguza's body was incomparably strong, and with the help of the Thunder Xian pill, the thunder and lightning in the thunder gathering array could cleanse his body. Although Lenguza's body had been modified by Lin Yi's vital qi, the potential contained in it was not something that Lin Yi could stimulate. This time, the thunder and lightning baptism could complete this crucial step, allowing Lenguza to undergo a fundamental transformation. It's really effective. Lenguza has already begun to evolve. I wonder how much stronger this guy will become after he transforms into a sea dragon? Lin Yi looked at Lenguza, who was tossing and turning in the lightning within the lightning gathering matrix, his eyes filled with gratification. Lenguza was also very excited. With every lightning bolt that fell on his body, he could clearly feel that he had become a lot stronger. This kind of improvement speed was simply unheard of. Lenguza also finally understood why Lin Yi insisted that he enter the lightning gathering array to try. When the third claw grew out of Lenguza's lower abdomen, Lenguza finally couldn't contain his excitement. He couldn't help but roar towards the sky, and the faint sound of a dragon's roar shook the valley. He could not help being visibly moved too, as he said, "This guy really has limitless potential." Just by going through the baptism of the lightning tribulation and completing the evolution, his strength directly jumped from the peak of the early mysterious ascension stage to the late mysterious ascension stage in one fell swoop. In the entire sea dragon clan, probably only the sea dragon king can be stronger than him, right? Originally, when Lenguza transformed into a sea dragon, he would not have risen by 3 levels in one go. Even counting the 1 level that he had just risen by because of the Naiden, he had risen by 4 levels in a row. There were still many factors that combined together to form this. For example, after the potion in the center forcibly increased Lenguza's strength level, it began to cause Lenguza's body to begin to collapse at the genetic level. In fact, the root cause was that Lenguza's physical body was not strong enough to withstand the power of the potion. In other words, before the power of the potion could be fully exerted, it was unreasonably suppressed by Lin Yi's universal true qi. Then, while the universal true qi was repairing Lenguza's genes, it was also the most direct cause of Lenguza's mutation. Even Lin Yi was not clear about the changes, let alone the ignorant Lenguza. If this continued, the residual power of the potion in the center would slowly be released, but it was difficult to tell whether it would become beneficial or harmful. Because of this, there were 2 extreme evaluations of Lenguza's potential. This time, following Lin Yi to find the Thunder Gathering Formation could be said to be Lenguza's greatest opportunity. Because Lin Yi would not attract the Thunder Retribution for no reason. It was also because of this that he suddenly had the idea to let Lenguza, who had already reached the profound ascension stage, try the effect of the Thunder Gathering Formation. The final result was that the power of the thunder and lightning forced all the residual potion hidden in Lenguza's cells out, turning it into one of the power of transformation and evolution. Coupled with the powerful improvement brought by the evolution itself and the sea dragonite that had not been completely digested, it caused him to rise by 3 levels in one go. However, this was not the end. In the thunder and lightning, the huge body of Lenguza, who had completed the evolution, shrank rapidly. In a blink of an eye, he was only about 2 meters tall, and the 3 claws also transformed into 4 strong and powerful limbs, transforming into a human form. Lin Yi did not expect Lenguza to give him such a surprise at the end. Previously, he heard from Lenguza that the Sea Dragon clan could only completely transform into a human form after evolving into a sea dragon. If it was a sea dragon, it would be impossible for them to do this. However, the current Lenguza was obviously just a sea dragon that had just evolved. There was still a long way to go before he could evolve into a sea dragon, but he could already successfully transform into a human. It could only be said that this guy's mutation was quite powerful. In terms of talent, there was probably no one in the Sea Dragon clan that could be compared to Lenguza. Ha ha ha, boss. I've also become a human. Boss, do you think I'm handsome? After Lenguza's transformation was completed, the thunder and lightning in the lightning gathering array also temporarily calmed down. Without the dazzling lightning, Lenguza's new appearance was completely revealed. His shoulder-length, blue-gold hair exuded a luxurious radiance, looking wild and unruly in the midst of his messy hair. His angular face, sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, was filled with masculinity and domineeringness. The corners of his mouth curled up subconsciously, revealing a hint of a devilish smile. His golden ratio body was strong and slender, and his well-proportioned muscles contained explosive power. How could this be described with just the word handsome? This was simply a rhythm that could charm thousands of young girls. However, Lin Yi only curled his lips and said indifferently, "Don't you know how to change clothes?" That one sentence changed the scene. From a Prince Charming, he immediately turned into a gangster running around naked, Lenguza had just opened his legs and was already unsteady because he was not used to it. When he heard that, he directly fell to the ground. He stood up and scratched his head with a dry smile. I don't think so. Boss, can you lend me your clothes? Lin, he was speechless. He could transform into a human form, but he couldn't transform his clothes together. He was really just a dabbler. Chapter 56-63. Wahaha, boss. Even though your clothes are a little tight, it can't be helped that you're handsome. You look handsome no matter what you wear. Don't you think so, boss? Lenguza rubbed his sleeves and rolled up his trousers as he laughed proudly. Lin, he couldn't be bothered with him. He walked to the side of the lightning circle and studied it for a while. This formation had a cool-down period, and the lightning from before had pretty much used up all the lightning in the sky. It needed some time to recharge. Taking this opportunity, Lin Yi found the key to close the array according to the description of the lightning gathering array and stopped it. With this discovery, Lin Yi had to make a trip back to the Green Cloud sect. As long as he could guard this lightning gathering formation, there would be more mystic ascension stage cultivators appearing in the small Jianghu. In the future, if he could really connect to the Sky-class island, the gap between them and the Sky-class island wouldn't be too huge. Lenguza, wait here first. I'll go back to the Blue Cloud sect and bring a few people here. After Lin Yi stopped the lightning gathering array, he got up and said to Lenguza. Lenguza nodded and said, Okay, boss, do you need me to send you there? With my speed, I can get there faster. Lin Yi thought for a moment and shook his head. Forget it, my flying spirit beast is still outside. You stay here and stabilize your cultivation. It's not good if you don't familiarize yourself with the continuous leveling up. Lenguza heard this and did not insist. He had just transformed into a human form. He did not want to immediately change back to his original form, especially the clothes that he had just put on. He had to change back to his original form and then put it back on again. It was really troublesome. He had to cultivate the ability to transform clothes as soon as possible. Then go back. Quickly, boss. I'll practice walking here first. I've never tried to walk with my legs before. I'm really not used to it. Lenguza chuckled as he took 2 steps forward. Then he fell headfirst onto the ground again. Luckily, he was prepared this time. In order not to dirty his clothes, he extended his hand and propped himself up. It was just that he did not grasp his center of gravity well, and his entire body fell backward again. A dignified, mysterious ascension late-stage super expert, of course, would not fall so easily. He used his hands to support himself, and his body stood up again, and then fell to the side again. Lin, he didn't know what to say. He looked at Lenguza playing with the roly-poly toy and didn't say anything more. He left the place directly and returned to the mouth of the volcano outside. He summoned a flying spirit beast and flew back to the Green Cloud sect. When he returned to the Blue Cloud sect this time, Lin Yi did not alert anyone. He directly found Exanigia and asked Exanigia to inform Primordial Invincible and the other 2 masters of the mysterious ascending stage to leave the Blue Cloud sect quietly and flew to the nameless island. Along the way, Lin Yi had already told Exanigia the method of activating the Thunder Gathering Formation. This formation must be controlled by the Blue Cloud sect. The current situation of the small Jianghu in the ancient times was already dominated by the Blue Cloud sect. There was no need to create another sect that could compete with the Blue Cloud sect. When he brought the 4 into the cave and arrived at the valley where the Thunder Gathering Formation was located, Lenguza could already walk and jump normally. He looked no different from an ordinary person. After all, he was a master. He did not lack balance. It was easy to find the trick with a little practice. On the way, Lin Yi had already told them about Lenguza's transformation. However, after seeing it with his own eyes, he still felt a little strange. After all, when they parted yesterday, he was still a sea serpent. Today, he had turned into a fierce man. This transformation was too huge. Lenguza did not treat them as outsiders. He laughed and patted on one of their shoulders. How is it? Are you all stunned? Are you shocked by this young master's dazzling and handsome appearance? It's okay. After a few more looks, you will become accustomed to feeling inferior. By then, there won't be any problems. Ha ha ha. The others were fine with it, but Yu-I could not help but say, Lenguza, you were quite good at talking yesterday. Why have you regressed so much today? When it comes to handsome, how can you be better than me? Suddenly, he remembered that Lin-I was standing beside him. Yu-I quickly added, not to mention, there's also our boss Lin. After that, Yu-I turned his head and smiled at Lin-I. What he meant was, Master, you will always be the most handsome man in the world. I, Yu-I, will always be the second most handsome man in the world. Of course, in his heart, Yu-I would never admit it. In this world, except for Master Yu-I, who dared to say the word handsome, Lin-I directly ignored this pair of treasures. He signaled Exynegia and the other two to follow him. The matter of the thunder-gathering formation must be explained clearly. Who would have the time to care about these two? Lenguza saw Lin-I walking towards the thunder-gathering formation. He thought to himself, Boss is strong, but in terms of handsome, he is only a little better than me. But who is Yu-I? He looks like a zombie. Thinking of this, Lenguza suddenly squinted at Yu-I and said with a face full of disdain, I admit that Boss is more handsome than me. But how are you handsome, you old fart? You look like dirt. Oh no, I just patted your shoulder. It's so dirty. I need to wash my hands. Yu-I was furious. He rolled up his sleeves and said, What did you say, you damn sea snake? Do you believe that I won't kill you? In Yu-Yi's impression, Lenguza was a weak sea snake who was caught by the center to use potions to enhance his strength. Originally, sea dragons and sea snakes looked quite similar. Lenguza also had the blood of sea snakes, so it was not nonsense. Lenguza sneered and said, You old fart, you're quite bold. Come on, try to kill me. After that, Lenguza did not do anything. He directly released his aura. The powerful aura of the mysterious ascension late stage was immediately revealed. Yu-I was dumbfounded. How did this damn sea snake suddenly become mysterious ascension late stage? Damn, it must be Lin-Yi's doing. I only left him for a few days. All the benefits were given to this damn sea snake. He didn't even think about who he was working so hard for. After glancing at Lin-Yi's back with hidden bitterness, Yu-I immediately said to Lenguza with a smile on his face, I mean, Brother Lon, you're so handsome. You're going to kill me. You're so handsome that you're not giving others a way out. Ha ha ha. Other than Boss Lin-I, you're definitely the most handsome. Yu-I can barely be considered third. The situation was stronger than the person. Yu-I immediately changed his words without saying a word. It was just that the change was a little stiff. He could only laugh a few times to cover it up. Lenguza expressed his satisfaction. He snorted twice and crossed his arms in front of his chest. He looked at the sky at a 45-degree angle. Chapter 56-64. Yu-I gritted his teeth and laughed dryly a couple more times before running over to Lin-Yi's side. There was no helping it. If he wanted to get stronger, he had to grab onto Lin-Yi's little bastard. He thought that he would be the number one of the pugilistic world after reaching Xiansheng, but he didn't expect that there would be an undefeatable immemorial, and then Shangguan Feixing, who was stronger than him, and now even that dead sea snake was about to break through the sky. Yu-I felt that his life was too tragic, and suddenly he felt that Lin-Yi's departure wasn't a good thing for him. Primordial Invincible, Shangguan Feixing, and Exynegia all looked back in surprise when they felt Lenguza's powerful aura, but they did not stop. To them, Lin-Yi's words were more important than anything else, so they continued to follow behind Lin-I. Lin-I continued to ignore their behavior. As long as they did not fight, he would let them do whatever they wanted. Lan Guja tried to make a pose for a long time, but in the end, no one was appreciating it. He immediately felt bored and decided to stroll over to Lin-Yi's side to listen to Lin-I talk about the lightning convergence matrix. This thunder gathering formation is one of the keys for a peak nascent soul realm cultivator to advance to the mysterious ascension stage. Only after going through the thunder tribulation can you integrate your own spiritual roots and become a mysterious ascension stage cultivator. However, a normal peak nascent soul realm cultivator cannot withstand the attack of the thunder tribulation. Lin Yi said as he activated the thunder gathering formation. Primordial Invincible, Shangguan Feixing, and Exynegia had all gone through the thunder tribulation created by Lin Yi. When they felt the lightning in the thunder gathering formation, they became serious. The power of the lightning in the thunder gathering formation should be stronger than the thunder tribulation created by Lin Yi. Of course, they had never experienced Lin Yi's lightning burial before, which was why they thought that way. Compared to Lin Yi's lightning burial, this spot was much weaker. Without the Thunder Xian pill, a perfected, nascent soul cultivator of the human race would not be able to withstand it. Even the most talented sea beasts might not be able to withstand the thunder tribulation. Lin Yi could refine the Thunder Xian pill, and he also had the Thunder Xian Rattan in his hands. However, the development of the primordial underworld couldn't be undertaken by Lin Yi alone. He had to let the primordial underworld operate well. Here are 2 Thunder Xian pills as backups and a formula of the Thunder Xian pill. Exynegia. Keep it well and give it to Ma Zayden to study on the formula later. Let's see if we can make any changes. Lin Yi could not improve the formula by himself, so he could only pin his hope on Ma Zayden. The alchemy recipes of the primordial underworld had its own system. Even the Thunder Xian pill recipe of the Heaven Rank Island was not suitable here because there was no Thunder Xian Ting here. He could only find other ways to replace the ingredients in the pill formula. For example, the precious Thunder Xian Rattan could be replaced by the inner core of a sea beast of the Thunder attribute, or the inner core of a sea beast of the ethereal ascension stage. It all depended on Ma Zayden and the others to study it. Exynegia agreed and solemnly took the 2 Thunder Xian pills and the formula from Lin Yi. Lin Yi did not say who to give these 2 pills to. Exynegia guessed that he wanted him to do as he saw fit. Currently, he was already at the perfected nascent soul realm, but he did not have enough experience. Even if he had the Thunder Xian pill, he would not dare to try to advance. Bing Wuqing was in the same situation. In terms of her relationship with Lin Yi, Bing Wuqing was not inferior to Exynegia at all. However, he also did not have enough experience, so he might not succeed in breaking through to the ethereal ascension stage now. The only thing was that Bing Wuqing's talent was top-notch in the primordial underworld. Therefore, Exynegia had decided that one of the 2 Thunder Xian pills must be reserved for Bing Wuqing. Ijia, I'll leave this thunder-gathering matrix to you. Only you can master the trick of opening the matrix. Then you and the rest of you can discuss and choose suitable nascent soul realm cultivators to accept the thunder tribulation every year. Even without the Thunder Xian pill, they still have a chance to advance. It all depends on their choice. Lin Yi told Exynegia the trick of opening the matrix using vital chi telepathy and reminded him, "Yes, Granduncle, I'll remember." Exynegia bowed respectfully and said, "The primordial underworld will be grateful for Grand Uncle's great kindness." Not to mention that Lin Yi had left behind the recipe of the Thunder Xian pill. Even without the Thunder Xian pill, the thunder-gathering matrix alone had already provided the cultivators in the primordial underworld with hope of advancing to the ethereal ascension stage for thousands of years. Exynegia was right. This was a great kindness that all the cultivators in the primordial underworld would remember. Lin Yi, on the other hand, didn't really care about these things. After giving a few more instructions, he left with Lenguza. The matters of the immemorial underworld had finally come to an end. Lin Yi was eager to return home and only wanted to get back to Heaven Tier Island as soon as possible. The time taken for the Yuan Shin projection had greatly exceeded the original estimation. He did not know if there were any changes on the Heaven Stage Island. After all, the Heaven Stage Island was where Lin Yi was now. Therefore, he did not want to waste even a second. He brought Languza back to the teleportation point at full speed and teleported to the transit station. As soon as he arrived at the transit station, Lin Yi immediately rushed to the newly built residence. He wanted to see Meng Yao and the others who were in a coma. With old Lin and the others around, Lin Yi had never worried about any problems. However, what surprised Lin Yi was that there was no one on the island. Not only old Lin and An Qing, but all the people who were in a coma were also missing. What happened? Where did everyone go? Lin Yi was really shocked. Those who were left here were the most important people to him. If something happened to them, it would be a pain that Lin Yi could not bear. His divine sense spread out instantly, covering the entire island. However, he still could not find any trace of anyone. Lin Yi, who was always calm, couldn't help but feel a little nervous. "Boss, there seems to be someone in the sea." Seeing that Lin Yi was running around looking, Languza did not dare to stay idle. However, as a member of the Endless Sea Beast King clan, his attention would naturally be focused on the sea. Therefore, he found the figure in the sea earlier than Lin Yi. Lin Yi was startled. He immediately swept his divine sense over. He had never thought of going into the sea before. After all, Meng Yao and the others were in a coma. It was impossible for them to play in the sea. In addition, the figure had just emerged from the sea, so it was discovered by Languza first. "It's Chen Yutian." Lin Yi heaved a sigh of relief. Finally, he saw someone close to him. Since Chen Yutian was fine, the others shouldn't be in danger either. He was too worried, but the moment he saw Chen Yutian, he regained his composure. Chapter 56-65. "Boss Lin Yi, you're back. I caught a lot of seafood. Let's barbecue together." Chen Yutian laughed as he ran to the beach. Seeing his expression, Lin Yi was even more certain that the others were safe. After greeting Chen Yutian with a smile, Lin Yi asked, "Why are you here alone? Where did the others go?" "Oh, it's Senior Lin who had something to do, and he brought An Qing back to the common world." Chen Yutian threw down 2 net bags and stood up straight. Lin Yi used to be his instructor, so every time he saw Lin Yi, Chen Yutian would naturally want to stand up straight and talk. This habit couldn't be changed no matter what. Without Senior Lin here, we felt that we couldn't guarantee our safety here, so we might as well go back to the common world. It'll be easier to control the situation there. So they brought Yao Yao and my sister back. I stayed behind to wait for you, boss. I was afraid that you'd be worried if you didn't see them when you came back. Chen Yutian explained briefly, and Lin Yi got the general idea. Old Lin was probably going back to the West Star Village to drink the spring water. He left for a long time this time, and the others were afraid that the people from the ancient Small Jianghu would come to the transfer station. Without Old Lin, the rest of them weren't a match for the practitioners from the ancient Small Jianghu, so they went back to the common world. Now, in the common world, they were the top existences and no one in the world was a match for them. Unless they used weapons of mass destruction, everything was under control. It was indeed more convenient for them to go back to the common world. It's good that they went back. Let's go back together. After visiting them, I'll go back to Skytier Island. Lin Yi signaled Chen Yutian to go to the transfer point with him. Chen Yutian froze and pointed at the 2 bags of seafood on the ground. "Don't you want to eat some seafood first?" "I'm about to throw up from eating this stuff. What's so special about it?" Languza glanced at the 2 nets on the ground in disgust and shook his head, following Lin Yi. "I forgot to ask, who are you?" Chen Yutian saw that Lin Yi wasn't interested, so he opened the 2 nets and threw them back into the sea. He chased after Languza and asked. Just when Languza was about to strike the most handsome pose to answer this question, Lin Yi said without turning his head, "His name is Languza. He's a little brother that I took in the immemorial martial world." "Languza, Chen Yutian is also my follower. He's one of my earliest followers, so you have to respect him." If Lin Yi didn't say this, with Languza's strength, he wouldn't put Chen Yutian, who was only at the foundation establishment stage in his eyes. As for now, he didn't seem to put Chin Yutian in his eyes. Boss, don't worry, I will respect him. But I don't think there's any need to respect people who aren't as handsome as me. Of course, in this world, I don't think there's anyone more handsome than me, ha ha ha. Boss, you might be the only exception. Lin Yi was speechless. Did Lenguza go crazy when he transformed into a human? Or was it because there were too many lightning bolts in the lightning gathering formation and he became stupid? How could he be so narcissistic to this extent? You're a flood dragon. Can't you show some dominance of a flood dragon? Lin Yi didn't turn around, but his divine sense could clearly see that Lenguza struck a pose after speaking. Lin Yi's mouth twitched. Forget it. This guy should just give up on treatment. Chun Yutian, on the other hand, looked at Lenguza curiously. He didn't know where Lin Yi found this guy. To be honest, Lin Yi was more handsome than him, and he couldn't see through Lin Yi's strength at all. It was just that the pose was really ugly. Lenguza didn't know what Chin Yutian was thinking, or else he would have turned back to his original form and spit on Chin Yutian's face. After striking the pose that he thought was perfect, Lenguza put his arm around Chin Yutian's shoulder and said, "Since Boss said that you followed Boss first, then I'll call you Yutian Bro. To be honest, although you're not as handsome as me, you're still much better than that old bastard you. It seems like the third seat is for you, and that old bastard has to move back again. I'm sure he'll be pissed to death later, huh?" Chun Yutian laughed dryly. "Thanks for the compliment. Actually, you can just call me by my name. No need to be so polite." Yutian Bro sounded like someone who would only appear on rainy days. He was such a sunny person. How was he related to rainy days? "No need to be so polite. It's what I should do. This time we're going to your territory. I still need you to show me around, Yutian Bro, otherwise a handsome man like me will attract a lot of attention when I go out, and I won't know where to go." Lenguza had a matter-of-fact expression on his face, and Chun Yutian felt that he couldn't keep up with Lenguza's train of thought. He couldn't continue the conversation. Luckily, they arrived at the teleportation point, and Chun Yutian quickly shook off Lenguza's arm and walked into the teleportation point first. Lin Yi activated the teleportation point after placing the spiritual jade in place. After a flash of light, the three of them successfully left the station and returned to the mortal world's teleportation point. Originally, Lin Yi wanted to look for the blue sky valley near the River of Consciousness, but he couldn't find the exact location after asking around for a long time. In order to not waste time, he decided to wait until next time. Near the teleportation point, Yubing had people set up an ice palace branch, and there were many mortal world masters stationed there. One reason was to protect the teleportation point from being destroyed, and the other was to wait for Lin Yi's return. So as soon as Lin Yi and the other two appeared on the teleportation point, a helicopter flew over and brought them to the nearest airport, where they transferred to a private plane that was already prepared. Lenguza said excitedly, "Boss, your place is really interesting. The flying equipment is really good, it's fast and stable, and it doesn't need spiritual jade to fly, it's the best. It's almost the same as the AI Fu-O in the center." Lin Yi smiled faintly and didn't explain further. The technological power of the common world, when placed in the world of practitioners, was also a rather magical thing. It was just like the technological boom on Sky-class Island and Kong Xiaoming's armor and laser cannons. It was normal for Lenguza to be surprised. Chapter 56-66. Lin Yi chatted with the girls for a long time, and a few hours passed. Chun Yutian knocked on the door. "Boss, I received a mission from the Supernatural Investigation Bureau, and I need to leave for a while. So I came to inform you. Go, but be careful. Although you should have no opponents in the common world, the center seems to be stirring up trouble again. Their strength is not to be underestimated." Lin Yi stood up and patted Chun Yutian's shoulder, reminding him. Lin Yi wasn't sure whether the center would come back to cause trouble or not, so he didn't say much. Chun Yutian nodded and left. Lin Yi looked back at the girls and followed him out. It was rare for him to come back, so Lin Yi planned to meet his two followers, Kong Xiaobo and Fatty Lai. They didn't have much interest in training, but the common world's business was the best stage for them to show off their skills. As for these two followers who followed Lin Yi since the beginning, he still had to meet them before he went back. After Lenguza had seen his sisters-in-law who had fainted, he had been eating and drinking in the living room while watching TV. Whether it was the wonderful programs or the delicious food, it made Lenguza very happy. He felt that this place was like heaven. What kind of life did he have in the endless sea before? Seeing Lin Yi coming downstairs, Lenguza quickly stretched his neck and swallowed the food in his mouth. He said excitedly, "Boss, do you want to take me out for a walk? I can go any time." Chun Yutian was supposed to bring Lenguza out to play, but Chun Yutian went out on a mission, so he could only rely on Lin Yi. As for Yu Bing and Yu Dake, Lenguza didn't think that Chun Yutian could get along with them. Besides, they were in charge of guarding this place, so it wouldn't be easy for them to leave. Lin Yi smiled faintly. This was the first time Lenguza came to the common world, and he was full of curiosity. He didn't plan to bring Lenguza to meet Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi, but since Lenguza wanted to go out, Lin Yi didn't mind bringing him around. "Let's go, I'll bring you around." After saying that, Lin Yi said goodbye to Yu Bing and the others and brought the excited Lenguza out. Walking on the main street, Lenguza felt that there were new and interesting things everywhere. He had never even been to a human town in the ancient era's Little Jianghu. Coming to the mortal world at once, of course, he had a feeling that there was too much to take in. Lenguza's handsome face also brought him a lot of attention, especially his luxurious blue golden hair, which was especially dazzling under the sun. Luckily, the people in the common world were used to seeing the world, so they thought that this kid dyed his hair. There wasn't a scene like what Lenguza expected. "Boss, this place is so fun. How long are you planning to stay here? Why don't we just stay here forever?" Lenguza liked this place more and more, so he started to encourage Lin Yi to stay here. As for the sparse spiritual qi in the common world, it was completely ignored by Lenguza. After all, at his level, it was basically impossible to rely on natural spiritual qi to level up. As long as he didn't overuse his spiritual qi, it didn't matter if there was spiritual qi or not. At most, he could use spiritual jades to replenish his daily consumption. Lin Yi's heart moved. If Lenguza liked to stay in the common world, then it was not a bad choice. After all, the people from the center had already returned to the common world. He didn't know if they could create a profound ascending stage master here. With Lenguza's strength, the human practitioners in the profound ascending stage were basically no match for him. With him here, safety would be more guaranteed. "Lenguza, I can't stay here for too long, but if you like it here, you can stay," Lin Yi said directly to Lenguza. Lenguza hesitated for a moment and said, "I want to follow boss. I'll go wherever boss goes." Although the common world was very attractive to him, Lenguza still knew how he should choose. Lin Yi smiled and said, "Didn't I say that you can't go where I want to go? So if you don't stay here, you have to go back to the endless sea." "Then I'll stay here." Lenguza didn't hesitate and immediately made a choice. After seeing the prosperity of the common world, he didn't want to go back to the damn endless sea. "If you choose to stay here, then I have to ask you to help me protect the people in the villa, okay?" Lin Yi solemnly said to Lenguza. This was related to the safety of Chu Mengyao and others. He would not take it lightly. "Boss, rest assured, the safety of the sisters-in-law will be handed over to me, Lenguza. If there's any problem with the sisters-in-law, just look for me, boss." Lenguza immediately patted his chest and took care of everything. This was a good reason to stay. Moreover, Lin Yi didn't use an order, but a negotiating tone. Even the simple-minded Lenguza could feel the respect that Lin Yi had for him. With a boss like this, what else was there to say? "Thank you. With you here, I feel much more assured." Lin Yi smiled and nodded to Lenguza. Now, even if the center wanted to cause trouble, there wouldn't be anything to worry about. Unknowingly, The two walked to the entrance of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group. Lin raised his head and looked at the tall building. For a moment he was in a daze. The passers-by around him gave Lin a strange feeling. It was familiar, yet strange. The past days felt like a lifetime ago. Lenguza stood beside Lin Yi, looking around without any impatience. When he saw a pretty girl sneaking glances at him, he purposely put on a bright smile, and when the girl blushed and turned to leave, he started laughing out loud, as if he was enjoying himself. Lin Yi came back to his senses, shook his head slightly, and walked towards the entrance of the building. Lenguza looked back and saw that Lin Yi wasn't beside him, so he quickly followed. After entering the building, Lin Yi directly walked towards the elevator used by the higher-ups of the company. A beautiful girl at the front desk quickly stopped Lin Yi. Before she said anything, she showed a sweet smile and said respectfully, "Hello, sir, how can I help you?" Lin Yi was stunned. He just remembered that he hadn't appeared in Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group for a long time. Most of the employees probably didn't know him. Actually, there weren't many old employees who knew Lin Yi, so it was normal that he was stopped. Chapter 56-67. Genius 1. Second, remember if you want to go? Talk.net, providing you with wonderful novels to read. The little beauty still maintained her sweet smile and nodded gently. Yes, but this elevator is for the senior management of our group. People without fingerprint identification can't use it, and if you want to see Chairman Kong, you need to make an appointment in advance. Can you please call him and say that Lin Yi is looking for him? I think he will see me, Lin Yi said calmly. If it was an old employee hearing Lin Yi's name, even if he didn't know, he would know who was coming. After all, whether it was Kong Xiaobo or Lai Changyi, they all regarded themselves as Lin Yi's younger brother and were quite proud of it. But although the little beauty in front of him felt that Lin Yi's name was familiar, she didn't remember that this was an important person specially ordered by the two chairmen. After all, Lin Yi had never appeared before. No one would always remember the name of a person who had never appeared before. I'm sorry, now Chairman Kong is receiving foreign guests. It's not convenient for me to call and disturb him. Can you please wait for a moment? The little beauty said apologetically, which made Lin Yi not dissatisfied at all. Since Kong Xiaobo is not free, is Lai Changyi here? It's the same for you to find him. Lin Yi turned to ask Lai Changyi. Anyway, they were the same. If he saw one, he would naturally see the other. The little beauty said awkwardly, I'm sorry, Chairman Lai is also receiving foreign guests, so I can't contact him. Lin Yi could directly call Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi by their names. Obviously, his identity was not simple. Looking at Lin Yi's temperament, the little beauty also felt that he was not an ordinary person. So he continuously refused Lin Yi's requests, which made the little beauty a little nervous. In fact, she thought too much. How could Lin Yi be angry with an ordinary person? What's more, this little beauty gave Lin Yi a very good feeling. Such a receptionist was very cultured. Now Lin Yi was wondering what kind of foreign guest had come to receive Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi together. After Lin Yi left, these two fellows became the co-chairmen of Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. Under normal circumstances, sending one was already a grand treatment. Sending two at the same time, could it be that some foreign leader came? Then forget it. When they're done with their work, tell them that I've been here and ask them to find me. Lin Yi waved his hand, thinking that since they were busy, he should just let them be. Anyway, these two guys had followed him to the transit station and said everything that needed to be said. They were more obsessed with business, so Lin Yi did not bother them with business matters. All right, Mr. Lin, I will definitely convey your message to the two chairmen. The little beauty smiled sweetly and bowed slightly. Her words and actions were impeccable. At this time, the elevator used by the group's executives opened, and a beautiful young woman came out. Hearing the little beauty's words, she asked, Who are these two guests? Do they want to see the chairman? The little beauty looked and quickly replied, Yes, CO Lan, they want to see the two chairmen. Love, go, little, say, Nek Kuivi already told them that the chairmen are receiving foreign guests and can't see them for now. This beautiful young woman was Lan Fun. When she turned around and saw the smiling Lin He, she immediately called out in surprise, Lin bro, you're back. Why didn't you tell us to pick you up? I'm here to tell you guys. Lin Yi saw his old friend and made a rare joke. However, when he saw Lan Fun, he thought of Tang Yin again, and his mood became a lot gloomier. Lin bro, you're too much. You should have told Xiaobo to come down and pick you up. What kind of joke are you playing with the girl at the front desk? Lan Fun complained with a smile and pulled Lin Yi into the elevator. The little beauty at the front desk was speechless when she saw the usually calm CEO Lan getting a little excited. She thought that these two handsome guys were really not simple. Fortunately, she didn't offend them. After entering the elevator, Lan Fun directly pressed the button for the highest floor and asked, Lin bro, how is Tang Yin now? Lin Yi couldn't help but let out a long sigh. He just thought of Tang Yin, and Lan Fun also asked about her. She was really the best friend. Lan Fun was secretly annoyed. Why did she ask Tang Yin for no reason? Why did she ask when she already knew? She was really stupid. Just when she was thinking about how to change the topic without leaving a trace, Lenguza suddenly whispered to Lin Yi, Boss, her surname is Lan too. Could she be a relative of mine? Look at how handsome I am and how pretty she is. It seems very possible. Lin Yi looked at Lenguza, speechlessly. What was going on? Lan Fun was a real human in the secular world. You're a real flood dragon from the endless sea. Relative? Don't talk about 8 poles. Even 8 million poles wouldn't be able to connect. Lan Fun was just worrying about how to change the topic, and someone gave her a way out. She laughed and said, Mister, is your surname Lan too? What a coincidence. Maybe our ancestors are really a family. Lin Yi looked at Lan Fun and didn't say anything. If Lan Fun knew that the person in front of her was a flood dragon, she would probably go to her ancestors' graves to repent. Saying that one's ancestor was a flood dragon in the secular world was equivalent to saying that one's family was the descendant of a demon. Lenguza didn't care what Lin Yi was thinking. His favorite thing to do was to communicate with beautiful or handsome humans. When Lan Fun responded, he immediately used his special skills and started chatting with Lan Fun in 2 or 3 sentences. Lan Fun didn't want Lin Yi to remember Tang Yin's sad memories, so she cooperated and chatted with Lenguza. When the elevator stopped, the two of them were like long-lost siblings. When the elevator door opened, they heard a quarrel coming from the chairman's office. Because this floor was not accessible to unauthorized people, the office door wasn't closed. The conversation inside could be heard clearly. An unfamiliar man said loudly in stiff Chinese, If the medicine from your miracle Dr. Guan Medicine Company wants to enter Europe to participate in this medicine exhibition, you have to go through our holy... Kong Xiaobo interrupted without hesitation. We received an invitation from Europe to participate in the exhibition. What kind of organization are you? Holy? Do you have Saint Seiya? Do you want us to meet your leader, Athena? Will she hit us with a golden staff? Chapter 56-68. Genius 1. Second, remember if you want to go. Sure, Net provides you with wonderful novels to read. Kong Xiaobo laughed and said disdainfully, Fine. I want to see if your Saint Seiya is really that powerful. Whatever methods you have to deal a blow to our miracle Dr. Guan Medicine Group, bring it on. Today, Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi were already masters of the foundation building stage. In the secular world, apart from their own people, they were invincible. Not to mention that Kong Xiaobo was just laughing at the other party. Even if the other party really had Saint Seiya, Kong Xiaobo was not afraid at all. As for using normal business methods, Kong Xiaobo had nothing to worry about with a business expert like Lai Changyi. After all, Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company had a lot of funds. There was nothing to worry about when it came to capital. No matter if it was civil or military, Kong Xiaobo wasn't afraid of them at all. His words were full of confidence. If they were here to discuss business, Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi would cooperate with them. But if they wanted to threaten Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company, then they had the wrong idea. The strange man said something in English, flustered and exasperated. Kong Xiaobo said indifferently, "Take care, I won't see you out." Then Lin Yi saw two Europeans walk out angrily, swearing in English. Lin Yi frowned slightly, but he did not intend to teach them a lesson. To be honest, it was not suitable for Lin Yi to intervene in the affairs of the secular world. Moreover, he believed that Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi could handle the business affairs well. This matter seemed simple. Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company wanted to enter Europe, and the springboard was a medical exhibition that was about to start. Then an organization in charge of this business jumped out and asked for benefits from Miracle Dr. Guan's medical company. But Kong Xiaobo rejected them cleanly. Lan Fen waited for the two to leave, then smiled apologetically at Lin Yi. "Brother Lin, I'm sorry that you just came back and saw such an unpleasant scene." Lin Yi waved his hand. "What's there to be sorry about? Any product that wants to enter Europe and America will be resisted by the local financial oligarchs. To enter the market smoothly, it's not just about having a good product. Xiaobo and Lai Changyi should be able to handle these things well. I don't have to worry about it, right?" Hearing the conversation between Lin Yi and Lan Fen, Kong Xiaobo and Lai Changyi rushed out. "Boss, you're back! How was it? Was it fun in the ancient Zhenghu?" The two rushed up and gave Lin Yi a bear hug as they spoke. They were the lackeys who followed Lin Yi from the beginning, so their relationship wasn't ordinary. Lin Yi was quite happy as well, and he smiled. "There's nothing fun about it, so I'm back." "Ha ha ha, then why don't you stay, boss?" Kong Xiaobo laughed loudly. Although he knew that it was impossible, it had nothing to do with Lin Yi. Lai Changyi pushed Kong Xiaobo away. "Stop talking nonsense. Let the boss sit inside. Quickly take out your treasured tea and brew it." "Damn, Fatty Lai, you've been eyeing my tea leaves for a long time, haven't you? You know that the boss doesn't like tea, so you're using your position for personal gain, aren't you?" Kong Xiaobo looked angry, but his eyes were full of smiles. With Lin Yi here, the atmosphere seemed to be completely different from usual. Lai Changyi also laughed loudly. He didn't admit nor deny, and pulled Lin Yi to the office. After Languza was introduced to the two quickly became familiar with Languza. They were all Lin Yi's lackeys, so they were considered family, and there was a natural sense of closeness. In addition to Languza's characteristic of being familiar with people, the few of them were already close brothers in a short time. After chatting for a while, the topic turned to the two Europeans from before. Although Lin Yi didn't want to intervene in the affairs of the secular world, it didn't matter if he listened to the ins and outs. If necessary, he could also provide some suggestions of his own. In fact, the most important thing was that Languza was very interested in the saints of the sanctum, Saya and Athena, but he didn't know that this was just Kong Xiaobo's nonsense. After listening to Kong Xiaobo's official explanation, Lin Yi knew that this sanctum organization was indeed not a simple place. Although there were no saints in Europe, it was definitely an existence that could turn the clouds and rain with a flip of their hands. "You said that this sanctum alliance suddenly appeared recently and then monopolized the European pharmaceutical market in a very short time?" Lin Yi frowned. This wasn't what he'd expected. It wasn't what he'd expected. Kong Xiaobo nodded and said, "Yes, I have never heard of the Sanctum Alliance in Europe before. Although our products are not exported to Europe and the United States because the supply of our products cannot meet the demand in our country, we also pay attention to the European and American markets. After all, opening the international market is something that needs to be done sooner or later." Lai Changyi also said, "Our gold sore medicine is very popular in Europe. Since we can't order it through formal channels, many smuggling groups specially buy it in China and then smuggle it to Europe to make huge profits. Therefore, the gold sore medicine is still very well known in Europe. This time, the pharmaceutical exhibition sent an invitation letter to our group because of this reason. It just so happens that our production capacity has been further improved. and it is time to start entering the international market. The two sides hit off. That European exhibition got a positive answer from us, and they were very happy. I didn't expect that the Sanctum Alliance would suddenly appear and even send people to our group. Lan Fin personally made tea and filled Lin Yi and Linguza's cups, as she said with a smile. Kong Xiaobo moved a little to the side and let Lan Fin sit down next to him. Then he continued Lan Fin's words and said, "Boss, since the appearance of the Sanctum Alliance, the attitude of the organizers of the pharmaceutical exhibition has become a little subtle. So this time, Brother Lai and I met the people sent by the Sanctum Alliance together, wanting to find out the other party's background. So did you find out?" Lin Yi thanked Lan Fin, picked up the teacup, and said faintly. Lai Changyi and Kong Xiaobo looked at each other awkwardly and then said, "Boss, you saw the situation just now." These two foreigners came with an arrogant look. They talked for a long time, and the result was that they parted on bad terms. They didn't get any useful information. Chapter 56-69. Genius 1. Second, remember if you want to go? To provide you with wonderful novels to read. I know about this. The organizer is a pharmaceutical group, and behind it is an ancient noble family in France with a deep background in Europe. Lan Fin seemed to be in charge of this information, so she answered Lin Yi's question. Lin Yi put down the teacup and smiled faintly. An organization with such a deep background was suppressed by the Sacred Alliance that just popped up. It'd be a miracle if you guys could find out anything about the Sacred Alliance. Linguza imitated Lin Yi and took a sip of tea, but he felt bitter. He wanted to spit it out, but he was afraid of embarrassing Lin Yi. It would be over if Lin Yi did not bring him along when he went out in the future. He could only swallow the tea with a bitter face. After hearing Lin Yi's words, he quickly put down the teacup and actively asked, "Boss, that's Sanctuary Alliance. Why don't you let me go and kill them? By the way, where is Europe? If I go and kill them now, I can still come back in time for dinner, right?" In fact, Linguza was so eager to deal with the Sanctuary Alliance because he wanted to confirm whether there were Saint Seiya and Goddess Athena there. Kong Xiaobo said it was a joke, but Linguza felt that he still had to confirm it himself. Lin Yi smiled slightly and said, "You don't have to do it yourself. I will let you know if I need anything." Linguza said with emotion, "Boss, if you need anything, Linguza, will do it properly." After that, he focused on eating some fruit pastries on the table that Lan Fin put on the table. As for the teacup, he would not touch it a second time, even if he was beaten to death. After being interrupted by Linguza, Lin Yi did not want to talk more about the Sanctuary Alliance. There was not enough information now, so it was useless to talk more. So he got up and said, "That's it for today. When will you go to Europe for the exhibition? Let me know when the time comes. I will go with you." "Yes, boss." Kong Xiaobo and the others hurriedly stood up. Although they didn't think that Lin Yi needed to deal with these trivial matters, they would be more confident if Lin Yi went with them. Moreover, it was rare for them to meet Lin Yi, so they could go to Europe together. "Boss, why don't we go for a meal together?" Lai Changyi saw that Lin Yi was about to leave shortly after he arrived, so he wanted to have a meal together and get together for a while longer. If Lin Yi were to return to the Heaven Stage Island according to his original plan, they would definitely have a meal together. But now that he had decided to check out the Sacred Alliance, he naturally wasn't in a hurry. Most importantly, Lin Yi felt that the appearance of the Sacred Alliance was a little strange. "This timing, you guys go ahead with your work. I still have to meet someone else. Dinner can wait until I go to Europe." Lin Yi smiled and waved his hand, indicating that they didn't need to send him off. He turned around and walked towards the elevator with Linguza. Lin Yi said that they didn't need to send him off, but Kong Xiaobo, Lai Changyi, and the others couldn't really not send him off. After all, Lin Yi was their most respected boss. Even Lan Fin, they accompanied him into the elevator and sent him out of the building. "All right, you guys go back to your work. If you continue to send me off, you'll have to send me back to the villa. Just call me if there's anything." After Lin Yi finished speaking, he didn't care about Kong Xiaobo and the others anymore. He brought Lenguza and left the Miracle Dr. Guan medical group. Lenguza followed Lin Yi for a while. His eyes lit up when he saw the trendy clothes in the display window. "Boss, I want some new clothes. Why don't we go there?" Lin Yi looked at the clothing store. He wasn't interested in accompanying Lenguza to shop, so he immediately shook his head and said, "It's too troublesome to buy clothes. It's not convenient to hold them in my hands. Why don't you buy them yourself and go back to the villa?" Lenguza suddenly hesitated. On one hand, there were handsome clothes. On the other hand, there was a rare opportunity to come out and broaden his horizons. It was hard to choose. Lin Yi didn't stop walking. He said without turning his head, "Let's go. I'll get someone to send a set of clothes suitable for you to the villa. It'll be enough for you to wear for a few years." This was nothing. The wealth of the common world was just a meaningless number to Lin Yi. If Lenguza liked it, he could buy a clothing company to make clothes for Lenguza. There was no need to waste even a second on this. Lenguza heard Lin Yi's words and laughed. He followed Lin Yi in satisfaction and continued to look around. Lin Yi was thinking about who he should look for next. He suddenly stopped and looked carefully. This seemed to be the bar where he met Sun Jingyi for the first time. Speaking of which, he hadn't seen Sun Jingyi for a long time. Thinking about the promise of being half a lover, Lin Yi couldn't help but miss it. "Let's go see Sun Jingyi." Lin Yi immediately made a decision. It's just that Sun Jingyi's family was in another city. It was still a bit far from here. Lin Yi could fly there quickly if he transformed into his primordial spirit, but Lenguza couldn't follow. "Boss, do you want to go there to eat? Then let's go. What are you standing here for?" Lenguza followed Lin Yi's gaze and saw a Western restaurant. There were a few people eating inside. He suddenly felt a little hungry. Actually, Lenguza was a super expert in the late stage of mysterious ascension. What he needed to replenish was pure spiritual energy. The food of the secular world was useless, no matter how much he ate. The so-called hunger was completely because his mouth was gluttonous. Lin Yi looked at the Western restaurant and sighed softly in his heart. That was the bar he and Sun Jingyi met, but now it had become a completely different Western restaurant. Things really remain the same, but people have changed. Let's go there and eat something." Lin Yi didn't refuse Lenguza's proposal this time. Although the bar was no longer there, the place was still the same. It was good to go in and sit. When Lenguza heard Lin Yi's agreement, he immediately ran over with a smile and opened the door before the doorman. Just as he was about to go in, he suddenly turned around and said to Lin Yi, "Boss, please go first." "When did you become so polite?" Lin Yi smiled and didn't bother with Lenguza. He walked in first. The Western restaurant's decoration was very luxurious. It didn't seem to be low grade, but Lin Yi was very disappointed. After entering, he felt that there was really no trace of the previous bar. Chapter 5670. Genius 1. Second, remember if you want to go. We provide you with wonderful novels to read. He called out more than a dozen dishes in one breath. Lin Yi was dumbfounded. How did this guy know these dishes? He was so smooth that he could do crosstalk, right? The key was that this was a Western restaurant. You called out so many Chinese dishes, and they covered the 4 major cuisines. You're clearly here to cause trouble, right? Actually, how would Lenguza know the difference between Chinese and Western cuisine? He had seen these dishes on TV. At that time, he was already drooling. Now that he finally came to a restaurant, of course, he had to order everything at once. However, as a carnivorous sea beast king, he definitely wouldn't eat vegetables. He also wanted to vomit from eating seafood. Chicken, duck, beef, lamb, and pork were enough. Just as Lin Yi thought about it, a young man rushed out angrily and shouted, "Where did this little bastard come from? How dare you cause trouble at my place? Are you tired of living?" Seeing this person rush out, the few diners who were already there paid the bill and left in a hurry. Obviously, they knew that this person wasn't easy to get along with. However, Lin Yi was a little surprised. The voice sounded familiar. Could it be someone he knew? Looking back, he indeed looked familiar, but he couldn't remember his name. It should be a small character. He had seen him before, but he didn't pay much attention to him. As Lin, he didn't have time to sit down and was still standing near the door. The young man and 4 burly men directly ignored Lin Yi and surrounded Lenguza. Lenguza said, curiously, "Why are you surrounding me? Hurry up and send the dishes up. Get out of the way. The stench is affecting my appetite." "Kid, which path are you from? Who ordered you to come here to cause trouble?" The young man saw that Lenguza was still fearless after being surrounded. He felt that this guy might have some background, so he spoke more politely. Lenguza scratched his head and thought to himself, "I'm from the Endless Seas, Serpent Island. Have you heard of it? Boss, is it so troublesome to eat here? Can I beat them up?" Lenguza ignored the young man and stood up to ask Lin Yi. Lenguza was about 2 meters tall. When he stood up, he was about a head taller than those burly men. He felt like a crane in a flock of chickens. When he heard that Lenguza had a boss, the young man's heart jumped. He quickly looked back and saw that Lin Yi was just standing there casually. He didn't seem powerful. However, when he looked carefully, the young man's expression suddenly changed. This guy looked very familiar. Before he could speak, another young man ran out and shouted anxiously, "Brother, don't be impulsive. Let's talk this out. Guru Lin told us to behave and not cause trouble." "Brother, don't be impulsive. Let's talk about it. Hayashi Lin told us to behave and not cause trouble." Lin raised his eyebrows. Because this was the place where he met Sun Jingyi for the first time, he didn't use his divine sense to scan the place. Anyway, there was no danger in the secular world, so he didn't need to be vigilant all the time. So, he missed some acquaintances here. The one who just ran out, Lin Yi recognized at a glance. It was Zhou Ruoming, the second of the 4 big bullies. He was also Lin Yi's schoolmate and later became Lin Yi's underling. However, he joined Lin Yi later, so he wasn't as successful as Kong Xiaobo. Seeing Zhou Ruoming, Lin Yi remembered who the familiar young man was. He was Zhou Ruoming's brother, Zhou Ruoguang, who used to be a gangster. But this guy didn't have many contacts with Lin Yi, so Lin Yi didn't pay much attention to him. It was normal that he didn't remember him. Hearing his brother's words, Zhou Ruoguang's expression became extremely strange. Obviously, he had recognized that the blue-haired big boss was Lin Yi. In the beginning, Zhou Ruoguang was the first one in the Zhou family who was afraid of Lin Yi. Lin Yi didn't have a deep impression of him, but he was afraid of Lin Yi to the bone. Now that he recognized Lin Yi, he should come to greet him immediately. However, no one knew what Zhou Ruoguang was thinking. He rolled his eyes and pretended that he didn't recognize Lin Yi. He shouted to Zhou Ruoming, "What do you mean I'm impulsive? Don't you see that this guy is here to make trouble? Who would order twice-cooked pork and ancient-style pork in a Western restaurant? Crab meat lion's head? I will put some powder on his face, and then he will have a big lion's head." Lin Yi looked at Zhou Ruoguang with interest. This guy obviously recognized him, but he was still pretending. What was he going to do? In fact, Zhou Ruoguang was also panicking. He was afraid that Lin Yi would turn against him, so he didn't dare to be too presumptuous. He changed the topic and said, "Ruoming, don't talk about Hayashi Lin all day. You'd better think about yourself. If your Hayashi Lin is really so powerful, why didn't he come to help you?" Hearing this, Lin Yi understood. Zhou Ruoguang pretended that he didn't know him to say this to him. He didn't know what trouble Zhou Ruoming encountered. After all, he was Lin Yi's underling's underling. If he could help, Lin Yi wouldn't mind helping him. "Brother, don't say that. Hayashi Lin must have his own things to do. Besides, he left for college. How can he help me if he doesn't know my business?" Zhou Ruoming defended Lin Yi. In fact, he also knew that Lin Yi's identity was already too high for him to reach. Even if Lin Yi was here, he wouldn't have time to care about him. As he was thinking about this, he turned his head and saw Lin Yi standing not far from him. A few years had passed, but Lin Yi didn't change at all. Naturally, Zhou Ruoming recognized Lin Yi at a glance. Hayashi Lin, is it really you? Zhou Ruoming rubbed his eyes hard and couldn't believe it. Lin Yi smiled faintly and said, Zhou Ruoming, long time no see. Did you open this restaurant? Yes. I opened it. Hayashi Lin, why didn't you tell me that you were coming back? Let me hold a welcoming dinner for you. What a coincidence today. A chance encounter is better than an invitation. God, Lin, you have to give me some face and let me treat you to a meal. Ruoming was overjoyed as he grabbed the opportunity to invite Lin Yi to a meal. If it was another time, Lin Yi was someone that Zhou Ruoming couldn't even invite. It was rare that Lin Yi took the initiative to come to his restaurant. Of course, he would take the opportunity to build a good relationship with him. Chapter 56-71. Lin Yi smiled faintly as he looked at Zhou Ruoguang's back. This guy was still acting. If it was before, and Lin Yi didn't ask him to leave, Zhou Ruoguang wouldn't leave even if he was beaten to death. But now he was acting like this. Could it be that Zhou Ruoguang was in big trouble? To be honest, Lin Yi didn't really remember what happened to Zhou Ruoguang's house. Hidden House Shuang was the one who contacted House Zhou and made House Zhou an outer power. With a hidden background, House Zhou should be doing well. What kind of trouble could they have in the common world? After sitting down, Lin Yi asked casually, Zhou Ruoguang, I remember that your house was the head of the underground world in Songshan, right? How come you're in the mood to open a restaurant now? Zhou Ruoguang smiled bitterly. It was all thanks to Hayashi Lin that we were able to rely on Hidden House Wang and take over the power vacuum left by House Xiao. But the good times didn't last long. My father got into an accident, and my brother couldn't control the situation. The hidden world was too far away from Songshan. Plus, the situation of the noble houses is different now. There are many new noble houses, and Hidden House Zhuang seems to have disappeared, no longer interfering with the common world. Lin Yi nodded in realization, so it was because Zhou Tindi was dead. These two Zhou brats weren't made for the underground world, and when Lin Yi went to Sky Class Island, it was a huge shock to the ancient sects and hidden houses. These people were probably thinking about how to get to Sky Class Island. Where would they have the time to care about the common world? Plus, Lin Yi didn't seem to care that much about the Zhou family at first, and it was fine if he just helped them a little. What he cared about was the fact that they could protect Ziyu in school. But now that Ziyu was gone, what was the point of having them? Lin Yi guessed that these family clans with a bit of heritage were already beginning to strive for the perfected Heaven Realm. They were prepared to think of ways to ascend Heaven Realm Island. After all, news of Lin Yi becoming a Heavenly Dao Realm Foundation establishment expert had already spread. These people would definitely work harder. Lenguza, of course, was all smiles as he gobbled down the food on the side. He was having a great time eating, completely ignoring the contents of Lin Yi and Zhou Ruoming's conversation. After Zhou Ruoming briefly explained the situation at home, he asked, Hayashi Lin has graduated from university, right? Was he preparing to return to Songshan to develop his career? But this place is still a little too small, and Hayashi Lin won't be able to do much when he comes back, right? Zhou Ruoming didn't know much about Lin Yi's life after university. He was just a normal person at the bottom of society, so he didn't know what was going on in the noble houses and above. Pinliang was also one of the big four, and he was doing pretty well on Heaven Realm Island. Zhou Ruoming, on the other hand, was still struggling at the bottom. If he had been like Kong Xiaobo and recognized Lin Yi as his boss from the start, he would have risen to the top a long time ago. Lin Yi only brushed off Zhou Ruoming's question casually. Zhou Ruoming wouldn't understand even if he explained it, so he just let him understand it with his own imagination. Hayashi Lin, you're with Miss Tang Yin now, right? Or was he with Miss Meng Yao? To be honest, only Hayashi Lin is good enough for such outstanding girls. Zhou Ruoming was happy to be able to chat with Lin Yi, but there were only so many topics they could talk about, so it was inevitable that Lin Yi's sadness was brought up. Lin Yi sighed in his heart, but maintained a faint smile on his face. He changed the topic and asked, Don't always talk about me, tell me about you. Since he knew that Zhou Ruoming was in trouble, Lin Yi still wanted to help him. But the premise was that Zhou Ruoming had to say it himself. If he didn't want to say it, Lin Yi wouldn't force himself to help. After all, their relationship wasn't that good yet. Zhou Ruoming smiled bitterly again. Since Hayashi Lin wants to hear it, then I'll tell you. It's actually nothing much. Hayashi Lin, you know that I've been staying in school for a long time, so there's no way I can get into any university. Of course, it's not hard for my old man to get me into any university, but I'm not interested in it, so I graduated and started my own business. That's not bad. It's better than wasting my time, Lin Yi echoed faintly. He really thought that Zhou Ruoming was doing a good job. However, Zhou Ruoming still didn't say what was his problem, and Lin Yi couldn't take the initiative to ask him, so he could only continue to wait. At this time, Zhou Ruoguang came out again and asked coldly, "Are the dishes okay? Is there anything else you want to eat?" Lin Yi hadn't eaten any of it before, so he didn't mind thanking him. He wanted to see how long Ruoguang could keep up the act. Lenguza, on the other hand, stuffed his mouth full of all kinds of meat. He said with a muffled voice, "The food sounds delicious, but the quantity is a little small. If it's possible, please give me 2 portions of each." The corner of Zhou Ruoguang's mouth twitched. There were so many dishes and they were ordered for 10 people. But this blue-blonde big guy actually wanted 2 more? Wouldn't he be stuffed to death if he ate food for 30 people at once? What he didn't know was that although Lenguza was in human form, he was actually a sea serpent dragon. For a serpent dragon, food for 30 people wasn't even enough to fill the gap between his teeth. Seeing that Lin Yi didn't have any objections, Zhou Ruoguang could only ask someone to continue ordering Chinese food, and the Western food would be prepared by his own kitchen. It didn't need to be too exquisite, because that big guy wasn't even tasting it, he was just gulping it down. No matter how exquisite the food was, it was just like a cow chewing on a peony. "Ruoming, since you admire Hayashi Lin so much and believe in Hayashi Lin, why don't you tell Hayashi Lin about your situation? Let's see if the powerful Hayashi Lin can help you," Zhou Ruoguang said directly to Zhou Ruoming after he gave the order. There weren't many opportunities to meet Lin Yi. If he didn't seize this opportunity, he might not have another chance like this in the future. Zhou Ruoming said awkwardly, "Brother, don't get involved. Hayashi Lin is powerful, but the opponent isn't ordinary either. Don't cause trouble for Hayashi Lin. If you can't even solve such a small matter, then why are you admiring him?" Zhou Ruoguang seemed to be going all out. Although his heart was trembling, his words were quite firm. Chapter 56-72. This was also because Zhou Ruoming didn't know what Lin Yi had been doing for the past few years. He thought that it was just a simple case of picking up girls in school, so he didn't want to make things difficult for Lin Yi. At this point, Lin Yi couldn't just ignore it anymore. He went straight to the point. "Zhou Ruoming, is there any trouble? If you need it, I'll see if I can help you solve it." Zhou Ruoming hesitated, but he didn't want to say it. Lin Yi didn't force him. Whether he needed help or not was up to him. It was already too much for Lin Yi to ask for his opinion. Zhou Ruoguang looked disappointed. He glared at Zhou Ruoming and said it himself. "It's like this. My brother, this idiot, likes a girl. Brother, let me say it myself." Zhou Ruoming quickly interrupted Zhou Ruoguang. It was better for him to say it himself than let someone else say it. Lin Yi only heard half of the story. He thought that these 2 brothers wouldn't ask him to help them snatch the girl away, would they? That was too ridiculous. If they really dared to say something like that, they would definitely be slapped to death. When Lin Yi slapped him for the first time, it was Zhou Ruoming who wanted to snatch Tang Yin away. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. Zhou Ruoming quickly explained the whole story and solved Lin Yi's doubts. "Hayashi Lin, actually the girl I like used to be a waitress here. Don't worry, I didn't use any underhanded methods. I really like her." Zhou Ruoming was afraid that Lin Yi would misunderstand, so he explained it first. After all, he had the reputation of being a bully. Lin Yi nodded and didn't say anything. Zhou Ruoming continued. Her name is Liang Ruoqing. She is a very strong girl. I fell in love with her the moment I saw her. Maybe it was love at first sight, but at the beginning, she didn't really care about me. I asked her out a few times but was rejected. Zhou Ruoguang panicked. This idiot brother, did he forget who he was talking to? He was still reminiscing about his love story with a sweet face. Get to the point. Although Lin Yi didn't look impatient, Zhou Ruoguang didn't dare to let Zhou Ruoming continue talking about his love story. He coughed a few times. Zhou Ruoming wasn't an idiot. He saw his brother coughing so hard that his face and neck were red. Then he realized that it was time for him to get to the point. After that, my sincerity was able to move mountains and rocks. Finally, I fell in love with Ruoqing. After that, I found out that Ruoqing wasn't a girl from a normal family. She was a young lady from a rich family. She came to work in a small place like mine to escape from her marriage. Speaking of this, Zhou Ruoming's face was full of bitterness. When the Zhou family was in the limelight, they might have been able to match Liang Ruoqing's family background. But now, they couldn't be mentioned in the same breath. Lin Yi felt strange from the beginning. Even if the hidden aristocratic families started to cultivate hard and stop caring about worldly affairs, the aristocratic families in the secular world had been abolished. Now it was the cultivator alliance that was in charge. What the hell was a new aristocratic family? However, Lin Yi didn't ask. He waited for Zhou Ruoming to continue. It wouldn't be too late to ask about other things later. Zhou Ruoming sighed softly. I don't know how Ruoqing's family found her. They came and took her away. They even warned me not to look for her again. Otherwise, they would break my brother and my limbs and throw us on the side of the road like beggars. God, Lin, I know that you have a good relationship with the people in the hidden world. I wonder if you could help my brother mediate this. Zhou Ruoguang finally dropped his disguise and asked Lin Yi sincerely. Although the hidden Zhou family no longer cared about worldly affairs, and the structure of the aristocratic families had changed, Lin Yi might still have some connections in the past that he could use. Even when the Zhou family was in the limelight, they couldn't ask for anything directly from the higher-ups, let alone in this situation. Although they didn't know how powerful Lin Yi was, they could only try their best. Lin Yi asked calmly, what did the girl named Liang Ruoqing say? She left with her family just like that? A pained expression appeared on Ruoming's face. Ruoqing's family threatened us, saying that if she didn't go back with us to get married, they'd deal with us immediately. They've sent cultivators, and you know as well as I do, Godlin, cultivators are strong, and we can't fight them at all. They said that it'd be a piece of cake for them to deal with us. So, Ruoqing had to go back with them. Lin Yi nodded. It seemed that the girl named Liang Ruoqing was a good person, and she seemed to have a good relationship with Zhou Ruoming. In this way, he would have a good reason to attack them. Lenguza suddenly raised his head and said vaguely, Boss, are the cultivators here very powerful? Why don't I go and kill them? Lin Yi was speechless. After this guy evolved into a dragon, he seemed to have become more violent. As soon as he heard that there was a possibility of a fight, he was the first one to stand up. Go eat your food. Don't interrupt. Lin Yi laughed and waved his hand, sending Lenguza away. He'd have to wait for Xiaobo's news anyways, and helping Ruoming out while he was at it wasn't too much of a hassle. He'd just have to get a lackey from a hidden house to do it for him. Tell me in detail about this new aristocratic family. Where is their family located? Also, who is Liang Ruoqing going to marry? Lin Yi asked casually, knowing this information would give him a better choice. After all, his subordinates were scattered all over the place. It would be easier to deal with the ones that were closer. Zhou Ruoming was a little excited. He knew that Lin Yi was powerful, but he didn't know how powerful he was. However, if Lin Yi could really speak to those families, then there was a glimmer of hope. Hayashi Lin, the Liang family, is in Anhuang City. I heard that they are going to marry an even more powerful family. As for which family, I'm not sure. Ruoqing didn't tell me. The information that Zhou Ruoming could provide was very limited, so he was a little embarrassed. On Huang City? If it's there. Lin Yi frowned. It was a small city, but he had some impression of it. After thinking carefully, he confirmed that it was the city next to Sun Jingyi's family. It wasn't far from Sun Jingyi's family. Lin Yi had been there a few times, so he had some impression of it. Chapter 5673. Well, that's where I'm going. Why don't you come with me now? I'll help you propose a marriage. Let's see what kind of family is so powerful that they even dare to bully my classmate. Lin Yi wanted to say that he was Lin Yi's younger brother, but the Zhou family was not qualified to be Lin Yi's younger brother before. It was only a younger brother's younger brother, and now it was even less qualified, forcing Zhou Ruoming to be Zhou Ruoming's younger brother, no matter what Zhou Ruoming thought. Lin Yi didn't think it was necessary. It was better to say that they were classmates. After all, they went to the same high school together, so they could be classmates. Zhou Ruoming was pleasantly surprised. He wanted Lin Yi to help him, but he didn't expect that Lin Yi would take him directly to the Liang family to propose a marriage. As for Lin Yi's background, Zhou Ruoming really didn't know much. But after hearing Lin Yi's words, he felt that Lin Yi would never lie. If he said it, he would definitely do it. He didn't know where this strange confidence came from. In the end, Zhou Ruoming could only attribute it to the fact that he valued Liang Ruoqing too much. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, he wouldn't give up, just like a drowning man grasping at a life-saving straw. Good, good. Hayashi Lin, wait a moment, I'll drive the car here right now. By the way, do you need to prepare something? Zhou Ruoming stood up, wanted to go out, but turned back, walked out, and turned back again. He was like an ant on a hot pot. It was rare that he still remembered that he needed to prepare something for a marriage proposal. But Lin, he didn't want to waste time like this. It didn't matter which noble house it was in the mortal world. It was a great honor for Lin Yi to come and ask for their hand in marriage. Why would he need any other gifts? There's no need. It's just a marriage proposal. Hurry up and settle it so you can rest assured. Lin Yi waved his hand indifferently, then turned to Lenguza and asked, Lenguza, do you want to eat here and go home by yourself? Or do you want to come with me? Of course it's with boss. Lenguza stretched his neck and swallowed the food in his mouth. Without hesitation, he said, All right, boss, this guy ordered a lot of things just now. Can I bring them along to eat? This guy actually knows how to pack? Lin Yi was also speechless. He waved his hand and signaled him to do as he saw fit. When Zhou Ruoming got Lin Yi's reply, he quickly ran to get the car. Zhou Ruoguang didn't dare to neglect. He quickly ordered Lenguza to pack food. He also knew that this big man with blue and golden hair was definitely not an ordinary person. It was better to flatter him. It was reasonable to think about it. How could he be an ordinary person if he could eat food for 30 people? Soon there was a sudden breaking sound outside the restaurant. Zhou Ruoming rushed in again and said, Hayashi Lin, I brought the car. Are we leaving now? Lin Yi looked out and saw a white Land Rover executive parked outside. The car was spacious enough for a big man like Lenguza to sit in the back and eat. Lenguza, let's go. Lin Yi said and gestured to Zhou Ruoming to go out with him. Zhou Ruoming trotted to the door and opened the door for Lin Yi. Then he ran to open the car door for Lin Yi. This was related to his and Liang Ruoqing's lifelong happiness. It was necessary to flatter them. Zhou Ruoguang also asked someone to bring the packed food. After the Zhou family had declined, the relationship between the two brothers became much better. As Zhou Ruoming's older brother, he had to go and see what was going on. Lin Yi and Lenguza sat in the back seat. One of the Zhou brothers drove, while the other one sat in the front passenger seat. After closing the door, the white Land Rover roared and rushed out. House Zhou had fallen, but the two brothers still had some money left in them. At the very least, the car wasn't cheap. It was a top-end Land Rover, and it had been modified as well. You wouldn't be able to get it for less than $1 million. Under Ruoming's control, the car sped up, and soon they were on the highway. Zhou Ruoming just wanted to get to the Liang family in Anhuang City as soon as possible, so he didn't care about speeding at all. Fortunately, his driving skills were excellent. Although the car was fast, he could keep it steady so Lenguza could eat in the back seat with peace of mind. Otherwise, it would be bad if he annoyed Zhou Ruoming. More than an hour later, Zhou Ruoming's car got off the highway and drove to the suburbs of Anhuang City. After another 10 minutes, they came to a beautiful place. Zhou Ruoguang, who was in the front passenger seat, pointed to a villa on the hillside and said, "Hayashi Lin, that is the Liang family. It's a good place. They really know how to enjoy themselves." Lin Yi said faintly. He had already released his divine sense and covered the entire villa. This new noble house really wasn't that impressive. There was only one mystic early phase and a dozen or so golden class practitioners. Lin, he couldn't be bothered to tell if they were early phase or mid phase or whatnot. They were just normal people in his eyes. The closer Zhou Ruoming got to the Liang family, the more nervous he felt. So he didn't say a word and quickly drove to the entrance of the villa. The four of them got off the car. Lenguza touched his stomach with a satisfied expression. Although he didn't feel full after eating, it was quite satisfying to eat along the way. "Boss, the houses here are so beautiful. It's much better than what I saw in the city. I want to build a house like this when I return to Serpent Dragon Island in the future," Lenguza said with envy when he saw this group of antique buildings. Compared to the reinforced concrete buildings in the city, this kind of ancient-style building was more attractive to Lenguza. The red walls, green tiles, carved beams, and painted rafters were indeed more charming and beautiful. "All right, let's get down to business first. I'll find a construction team to build a house for you on your island," Lin Yi said with a smile. He thought of the pavilion-style hall on Jiao Dragon Island and understood Lenguza's feelings. Lenguza's eyes lit up and nodded. "That's great. Don't forget, boss." "Oh, right. The 2 stone spirit beasts in front of the door should be bigger. These are too small. It'd be great if they were sea turtles. And the stone balls in front of the door can be replaced with turtle eggs. Wait until you have a say in your family, then we'll change." "Turtle son of a bitch?" Lin, he couldn't help but smile. This guy really knew how to do things. Only the sea beasts could come up with such a strange combination. Chapter 5674. Zhou Ruoguang grabbed a brass ring and knocked on the brass nail on the door. At the same time he shouted, "Is there anyone here? Please open the door." Someone replied quickly, "Who is it?" "Wait, stop knocking." Lin Yi knew that there was a small room behind the door. There were people guarding there, so he wasn't surprised at all. The red door opened halfway, revealing a gap that was enough for one person to pass through. A young man walked out and looked at Zhou Ruoguang, Lin Yi, and the others. He didn't know them. "Who are you? What business do you have with the Liang family?" Because he didn't know who Lin Yi and the others were, the man wasn't arrogant. He just asked in a normal tone. Zhou Ruoming quickly moved to the side to let Lin Yi in. He pointed at him and said, "We are from Songshan. This is Mr. Lin Yi and his brother. I'm Zhou Ruoguang, and that is my brother, Zhou Ruoming. We would like to see the master of the house." The guard's nostrils flared when he heard that they were from Songshan. There weren't any aristocratic families in that place. If there were, it would be the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group and House Chu's Villa. However, these people didn't mention the name of Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group, and they didn't mention the important people in House Chu's Villa. Naturally, they weren't from any aristocratic families. "Do you have an appointment?" "Our master is very busy. He doesn't have time to deal with people like you. If you want to see our master, make an appointment a week in advance. Goodbye." After saying that, he turned around and went back into the door. Zhou Ruoguang said hurriedly, "Brother, please help me inform the master. We really have an emergency." Before he could finish, the door closed with a bang, and Zhou Ruoguang, who was chasing after him, almost knocked into him. After turning around, Zhou Ruoguang's expression turned ugly. Although he was in awe of Lin Yi, he still said, Hayashi Lin, it seems like your title doesn't work either. Will this work or not? Don't drag us brothers into the pit when the time comes. Because the hidden Zhuang clan had disappeared, Zhou Ruoguang was worried that Lin Yi's connections with the upper echelons had been severed. After all, the structure of aristocratic families had changed. If the Liang clan didn't give Lin Yi face, then the two brothers would have their limbs broken and become beggars. Of course, since the Liang family knew about the Miracle Dr. Guan medical group and the Chu family, they forgot about Lin Yi. It was obvious that after a few years, Lin Yi left. When he left, the Liang family wasn't an aristocratic family yet. Lenguze glared at him. What are you talking about, kid? How dare you speak to my boss like that? Do you believe that I won't slap you to death? Zhou Ruoguang pouted and didn't say anything else. After all, he knew how strong Lin Yi was. It was fine to complain, but it would be stupid to offend him. Besides, Lin Yi was here to help. Lin Yi didn't mind. With his current status, he wouldn't argue with Zhou Ruoguang. He smiled faintly. Zhou Ruoming, go and knock on the door. Let me do the talking. Zhou Ruoming was very confident in Lin Yi. After agreeing, he ran and grabbed the brass ring to knock on the door again. However, the person inside didn't care at all. Zhou Ruoming called for 2 or 3 minutes, but there wasn't even a response. He just pretended that there was no one inside. Lin Yi smiled coldly. Since no one is opening the door, Lenguze, you go and open the door. Be careful. Don't make too much noise and don't use your qi. Lenguze was immediately happy. He followed Lin Yi to eat and drink well. Finally, it was his turn to show up. Fortunately, Lin Yi specifically told him not to use his qi. Otherwise, if he punched, the power of the mysterious ascension stage was not a joke. It might directly destroy the villa. Boss, don't worry. Just watch me. Lenguze laughed. He pinched his hands, and the joints made a crackling sound. He walked to the front of the door, and without any posture, he casually punched out. How strong was the body of a serpent dragon? Even if it did not use its true qi, it was still an extremely terrifying existence. Lenguze had only thrown this punch casually, but when it landed on the red lacquer door, it only let out a muffled sound, causing the entire door to turn into extremely tiny wooden shards that flew out with a whoosh. This was the result of Lenguze controlling his strength. Otherwise, not only the door, but the wall on the side would probably collapse for a long time. Zhou Ruoguang and Zhou Ruoming both opened their mouths wide. They were dumbfounded. What kind of person was this? He was too violent. It was such a waste of talent not to work in the demolition team. No wonder one person had to eat food for 30 people, and it was all meat. Lenguze retracted his fist as if nothing had happened. He wanted to take credit from Lin Yi, but thinking about such a trivial thing, he was too embarrassed to say it, so he simply gave up. Who dares to come to the Liang family to make trouble? Do you want to die? After the door was broken, someone immediately roared. It was the man who had just opened the door, and then 4 men in black clothes rushed out together. Zhou Ruoguang was shocked and hurriedly said to Lin Yi, Hayashi Lin, 2 of the 4 men in black are the people who came to take Liang Ruoqing away. They are all yellow class practitioners. Can your brother deal with them? The 4 of them might even be cultivators. Zhou Ruoming also took a few steps back in fear. These 2 brothers of the Zhou family were really lacking in courage. It was because of this that Lin Yi asked House Zhuang to help the Zhou family instead of taking them in as followers. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so clueless about Lin Yi's background. Lenguze was just thinking that he couldn't ask for credit from Lin Yi for breaking a door, and when he saw 5 people come out at once, he was a little happy. But when he saw that these 5 were all normal weaklings, he lost all interest. He was a mysterious ascended late-stage sea serpent dragon. Bullying normal people like this was too embarrassing. Lenguze, come back first. Lin Yi didn't want Lenguze to bully normal people. Yellow class practitioners were no different from normal people. After Lenguze came back, Lin Yi smiled faintly to the 5. Sorry, I used too much force when I called. I was afraid you guys couldn't hear me. The man and the 4 yellow-class cultivators looked at the broken pieces of wood on the ground in fear, and their eyes were filled with horror. Chapter 56-75. Since you have come out to meet people, then go and inform your patriarch to come out. Otherwise, don't blame me for going in and looking for people myself. Lin Yi said faintly. Since the door was broken, it was impossible for the Liang family's patriarch not to come out. The man who came out to answer the door whispered to the 4 black-clothed men, I will go in and report to the patriarch. You guys keep an eye on these people and don't do anything. The 4 black-clothed men nodded. They were not sure if they would take action now, so this was the best. Boss, why don't we go in and sit for a while? It's so boring standing here. Lenguza looked at the small room inside the door. It was enough for 7 or 8 people to rest. These guys were eating, drinking, and playing Fight the Landlord just now. Lin shook his head and said, No need, their patriarch will be here soon. The man who answered the door said that he was going to report to the patriarch, but in fact, he was avoiding Lin Yi and the others. He called the people inside and told them about the situation here. Of course, he wouldn't go in and report like before. The buildings here were retro, but the life here was also retro. Therefore, after the patriarch of the Liang family received the call, he had already rushed here. Lin Yi's divine sense could completely grasp all the movements in the villa, so he naturally knew that the patriarch would arrive soon. The 4 black-clothed men looked at Lin Yi and the others nervously. When a middle-aged man came out, they were relieved and bowed respectfully, Patriarch! This white-clothed middle-aged man was the patriarch of the Liang family, Liang Bufan. After seeing Zhou Ruoming, he coldly snorted and said, I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be you, a toad who wants to eat swan meat. Boy, you are very courageous. You actually dare to come to the door. It seems that you like to have your limbs broken and beg on the street, right? Zhou Ruoming flinched, then he straightened his back and said loudly, Uncle Liang, I and Ruoqing really love each other. Why can't you give me a chance? A chance? What a joke. Do you think I will give a toad a chance to touch my daughter? If you really want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. Liang Bufan laughed coldly and glanced at Lenguza from the corner of his eyes. But you're not too stupid, brat. You know to bring a helper when you're here to cause trouble. Unfortunately, do you think you can threaten me just because you found a random cultivator who's trained in physique training? He's so stupid. Lenguza moved closer to Lin Yi's ear and whispered, Boss, this idiot is so arrogant. Can I beat him up? Lin Yi glared at Lenguza. With one swipe of your claw, he would be turned into minced meat. What was there to beat? Lenguza understood Lin Yi's meaning. He could only smile awkwardly and say no more. Liang Bufan didn't hear what Lenguza said. With his strength, it was impossible for him to hear what Lenguza didn't want him to hear. Although he was puzzled, he didn't pay much attention to it. Go capture them. We'll settle the score with them later. Liang Bufan waved his hand casually and ordered the 4 yellow-rank cultivators to capture them. At this moment, a young girl ran out in a hurry and blocked Liang Bufan's way. Father, you promised me that you wouldn't make things difficult for Ruoming if you agree to get married. How can you go back on your word? Ruoqing. Zhou Ruoming was excited when he saw the girl. He wanted to rush over to her, but was stopped by the 4 men in black. Liang Ruoqing turned around and looked at Zhou Ruoming. Her face was filled with sadness and anxiety. She tried her best to signal Zhou Ruoming with her eyes, wanting him to leave quickly. However, Zhou Ruoming was unyielding for once. He rushed over and shouted, Ruoqing, I will never leave you today. Before he could finish his words, the man in black who stopped him struck his neck with a palm knife. He passed out instantly. Lin Yi could see that the man in black had no intention to hurt Zhou Ruoming. Therefore, he didn't stop him. Such a scene would have a greater impact on Liang Ruoqing, and Lin Yi was happy to see it happen. Speaking of which, these 2 people's names, Ruoming and Ruoqing, were quite compatible. Were they destined to be together? All right, Lin Yi's mind wandered off, looking closely. Liang Ruoqing, who had tears in her eyes, was indeed a beauty. However, compared to Lin Yi, who was used to beauties like Chu Mengyao, Tang Yin, Shanghai Laner, Huang Xiaotao, Duanmuyu, Lung Lung, etc., she was only passable. She was probably at the same level as Lan Fun. It seemed like he was quite interested in Zhou Ruoming. This kid was quite lucky. Moreover, Liang Ruoqing's temperament was 60 to 70% similar to Tang Yan's. It seemed like Zhou Ruoming really liked this type. Liang Bufan grabbed Liang Ruoqing, who was about to rush over to check on Ruoming, and said coldly, "Ruoqing, don't get it wrong. It's this blind bastard who came to us on his own. It's not Dad who went looking for trouble with him. Look, the people he brought even broke down our front door. Then why did you hit him? Why didn't you just let him leave peacefully? Dad, let me go and see him." Liang Ruoqing struggled with all her might. Unfortunately, she was no match for a mystic class master. No matter how hard she struggled, she couldn't move an inch. "If you want this kid to die now, then go over. Don't think that I won't kill him." Liang Bufan suddenly let go of Liang Ruoqing and said coldly. Liang Ruoqing staggered. After she managed to regain her balance, she didn't dare to go over. She knew that Liang Bufan was a man of his words. "Dad, let them go. I'll listen to you, okay? If you don't let them go, I'd rather die in front of you." Liang Ruoqing couldn't resist, but she still said resolutely. Liang Bufan grunted and said, "How about this? We'll capture them first, and we'll release them after you're married. This is my bottom line. Don't bargain anymore. If you want to die, they'll be buried with you." Liang Ruoqing looked at the unconscious Zhou Ruoming. She had no choice but to give in. After all, being under house arrest was better than dying now. Besides, Liang Ruoqing could still find a chance to meet Zhou Ruoming if they were under house arrest in the Liang's villa. She could even release them secretly. It was meaningless to resist now. Capture them all and tie them up with steel wire. Liang Bufan glanced at Lin Yi and the others and ordered indifferently. Steel wire was enough to make a mystic class master unable to break free. It didn't matter if they were an internal or external martial artist. Now that Zhou Ruoming was in their hands, Liang Bufan didn't think that Lin Yi and the others would dare to resist. Even if they did, he, an internal mystic class master, was enough to deal with them.